I think we live. We back. It's your boy B Neil, aka Emerald Thoughts, aka your favorite casual. Y'all see the title, man. We back in this thing, ready to get into it. What is it? Now, maybe I'm crazy podcast. I keep forgetting the name of the title, but still trying to think if that's gonna stick. Maybe, I often do say that a lot. So, hey, it might end up sticking. But like I said, we're gonna get into this conversation with Marc and just a little background with the conversation and how I just was talking about this kind of yesterday. Out of all the topics you can fall over or be in and talk about, and how different sides you can end up being, or different sides of the fence you can end up being on with these conversations, right? Marc conveniently is back on the liberal side when it comes to meal and these toys and things like that. I've never heard a cry. I never heard a cry about women needing to play with male toys. I never heard that being a problem with society, that women don't play with enough male toys in society. I've never heard that in my life. But when you start to get this ultra, super feminist ass society that we live in, and everything masculine, everything that boys do to have fun, everything that the male enjoys can get attacked because that's just a freedom that the society doesn't want. They don't want their people to be free. They want their people to be enslaved to materialism. They want the people to be enslaved to jobs. They want their people to be enslaved and just mentally. And if the male public is subjugated, you have no threat internally. And that's just the history of nations. Most nations fall because the men inside of that nation gets tired and rises up. But if we can keep these niggas feminine, never had that problem. And I think that's a huge thing about it. I think that's a huge thing about giving the women these power. I think that's the huge thing about giving women the idea that they don't need men, because it just incentivizes and make things even more difficult for people being able to create freedom as far as the family wealth builds freedom naturally. From two parents coming together and raising generations that will be able to help those elder people and keep maintaining the houses and the legacy that they built. And the more that generations of that family, honestly, their odds of success can get a lot higher, if you ask me. But like I said, we've never had a problem. I've never seen an article saying why women should play with more male toys, and why women lack of understanding and women's lack of empathy towards men and and the things that women struggle with their side of the fence of things when it comes to men. No one ever brings these things up. So why in the fuck do we bring it up on the opposite side? Let's see what Marc has to say. And make sure I'm live again. I just went live for like 13 minutes and shit went up. What the fuck? Somebody explain to me why my shit tripping. So YouTube just say Bryce can't go live no more. Boy, I tell you. Boy, oh, it's live now. Here we go. We lit. We back. All right. Just trying to make sure, bro. Somebody explain to me why my shit. I'm about to say it's a second live in a row that the hoe did not upload. But let's get into it. Let's go back to my damn, bro, how many times I go back? All right, let's get into this rabbit hole.
So you want to change the word? Not just the. I don't care about the word so much as how
how we look at the behavior
and what our expectations are for each other. So part of why it might be interesting to have a boy play with a doll, for example, is so that he doesn't think he's the only one. His wife is the only one, or his partner is the only one supposed to be taking care of a baby.
I think that's so bullshit. I think it's a clever tactic to get people to try to have empathy on that conversational piece, but I think it's bullshit. I think it's a Trojan horse. I think it's a Trojan horse of trying to attack masculinity stealthily. I really do. And the reason I say that is because I think changing a baby or dealing with babies is a gender neutral thing. I don't think that's a woman's toy. When I hear a baby, I don't inherently think, oh, look at that kid playing with a female toy. I don't think that. I think there's gender neutral toys that both sex can enjoy and play with and not be looked a certain type of way, and then it starts to go down the realm of, all right, that's out of the realm. Like even like an easy bake oven and shit like that. I think that's gender neutral shit. Like the colors might be a little feminine, but the concept is gender neutral. Even with there's male versions of being able to cook and shit, like having your own kitchen and shit. I don't look at that as a female thing. So maybe we need to redefine what you think is a feminist toy and a masculine toy, and we probably could have a more productive conversation. But if we just blatantly saying boys should play with feminine toys, and like, I don't get it. Because I think as a young boy growing up, I would learn naturally how to take care of my brothers and sisters, and that watching my mama take care of them, I learned that, I should help my mother and do something, mimic some of the behaviors that she does when it comes to helping them. So I'll cook for my brothers and my sisters. I will step up and do things for them if they needed me to do something for them. I realized I had a role to play as a bigger brother, and I didn't need any toys for that. I think kids pick up on that naturally, just like how kids learn. I think it's instinctual. We become sponges. It's just something that you don't have to teach a kid how to learn. It's like you don't have to teach a bird to fly to the south when shit is shit is cold in the north. So that's just how I see things. So with the situation going back to us as kids, I think there's natural things that teach a kid that. And the reason I wouldn't be mad with the baby situation, because if I say, hey, give that baby doll to a boy and tell him he needs to learn how to change a diaper, or he needs to coddle that baby, and as a form of just playing with it, just like it's when you're in the kitchen, you're playing, but you're doing chores at the same time. So it's a two birds in one stone type of thing, and kids love to do that shit. So obviously it sounds like a chore I'm giving him. It's not like he's having fun, but kids love to just do shit. So hey, you see me do that all the time. Change that baby, right? And that baby, they grow experience and learn how to grow a baby and help raise a baby. And the reason I think that's appropriate is because when I was 10, my mom had a kid. When I was 11, my mom had a kid. When I was 12 or 13, however the age difference went, but my mom had a kid. So there was times where I never had to change a diaper, but actively was in my brother's life and learning how to do certain things with making sure they was comfortable and making sure they was good and going to check up on them or something like that if they was crying and see if anything was wrong with them. So it's like that. I don't think that's wrong. I don't think that's crazy. I think that's something that could be looked at as gender neutral. Now, when you talk about makeup, a kid wanting knowing the new Barbie doll that's supposed to be coming out, and it's a beach set and I can't wait. Like, no, I think that's is when you start pushing the line too much, because I think anybody could understand, or maybe it's just my perspective and maybe I'm crazy, that the over stimulus of femininity is what turns a lot of kids gay. I'm sorry. That's just how I see it, especially from the male perspective. I think most of those male kids have been overstimulated to a point that they're confused on what they really are and really like. I do probably think, and this could lead into any other, I think this thing too could lead into Marc's side of the debate or my side of the debate, whether kids are born gay or kids are learned to have that trait. If they learn to have that trait, then what I'm saying stands it's hard to argue that giving kids girl toys, giving kids too much feminine stimulus can affect them in a way you should not affect them, right? If that's the case of being gay as a learned trait. If most kids that are gay are born that way, that would lean to Mark's statement and him being more right than I could be. Because whether he played with a girl or boy toy, it wouldn't have mattered no fucking way. He was going to be gay regardless, because there's a gene in him. And I don't believe there's a gene, but I do believe if there's too much estrogen, which could be a health thing, like you had careless health or a lack of understanding of health, so you had too much estrogen or maybe a soy thing in your body, and then that created a certain biochemical in that kid that could lead to a certain way of life. That's possible. I don't think that's majority of kids, but I do probably think most kids are learned traits, and then there is a portion of kids that do have some genetic issues and maybe feelings that they might have and end up having because of those genetic things that their parents may have passed on from just lack of health and things like that, or not giving them enough of something, as far as like maybe they didn't have enough testosterone or something like that. So I think most of the time it's, like I said, habits that's picked up, because when I see a black boy that's around nothing but his girl cousins, and he don't really have male cousins. He don't have a father in the household. His granny take care of him as well. I was in that situation. I was fortunate enough to still be put around masculine situations and also have God in me and all these other different things that didn't let these demons sway me off my path, if you ask me personally. Vice versa, some of these kids, their parents, even though they're raised in an only girl household, their parents was a little too careless with how they treated that boy. They was a little too feminine around that boy. They let him do a little too much feminine things without them ever correcting it. And I do think there's a time you have to correct these things because, like I said before, babies learn through natural just picking up shit like a sponge. So knowing that, right, and all he has is a female gaze to look at, of course he's going to become feminine. That's a normal, like, parallel logic to me. Like, I don't think I'm drawing strings and picking off bullshit. I don't think I'm being unfair. So I looked up statistics, right? And we'll get more into this conversation. I really don't think they got into that much depthness, so it's really not much here, but they did spark a conversation, if you ask me. So I looked up some things, and I'll be fair. With reporting, you get it on both sides. Statistics that say gay people come from broken homes. I just try to throw some keywords out there to see what I can get, right? While some studies suggest a correlation between broken homes, some studies, right, LGBTQ identifies as inaccurate. I mean, they're not a scientific group, so I don't know why that matters as the pin. The number one thing that you see when it pops up is what LGBTQ thinks. Okay, I didn't know that they were a scientific study group or a college or whatever like that does these professional studies. But okay, so they have shown significant percentage of LGBTQ individuals experience adverse childhood experiences, including family disruption or rejection, compared to the heterosexual counterparts. However, it is crucial to understand that this is a correlation, not causation. It's more accurate to say that LGBTQ individuals may be more likely to experience family challenges, possibly due to societal stigmas and lack of acceptance rather than being resulted of a broken home. So I think if I'm just going to break this part down, I think this is trying to get into how a lot of gay people end up having trauma when they are gay. I'm more getting into what turned them that way, or did something turn them that way. I'm not even trying to act like I know it for a fact that my way of belief is the reason that, that it was a habit or whatever. But yeah, outside of that, let me see what else. So that's why I said I wanted to kind of get into the actual what causes it. So when you go to, and even here it says that it's a correlation. So there's a high correlation that gay people come from broken homes, overstimulated by females, as far as like the black or the men that end up being gay. And then what else it says? They have family disruption or rejection. So I think the family disruption maybe can lend to, like I said, their father not being in the home and it being overstimulated by females. And then let's go to a couple other studies. It's found that nearly half the LGBTQ young adults are estranged from at least one family. And then the gay gene, let's see what they say. Gay gene or broken family. This is interesting. The gay gene causes homosexual is the pet theory of the gay movement and public advocates. And they have succeeded phenomenally well in selling the idea to the general public despite the total lack of supporting evidence. A gay gene, of course, enables gay advocates to claim. And this is the Catholic Daily Mail, I think. So let's just understand where it's coming from. But let's see if they have any studies, because they didn't go to the Bible says. They said where there's no studies of supporting evidence. So let's see how biased or how if they're being super biased, or do they actually have some scientific facts behind this shit. Be that as it may, let's go back. I skipped. Like support evidence. The gay gene, of course, enables gay to advocate same-sex behavior is natural and therefore beyond moral criticism. These are two distinct claims, however, since that they may be genes that incline us towards different sorts of behavior, for example, towards violence, that we don't think to excuse anyone from indulging in them. That's an interesting point. Because when I seen this, I'm not sure where they were trying to go, but where I picked up on, it's like, so if a guy commits something that's violent, do something violent, or a woman do something violent, the fact that we were born violent, that means it should be above the moral code, and I shouldn't get charged with it. That's where I don't know if that's where they were going with it, but I don't know. But be that as it may, the smart money will start to shift towards betting that gay advocates will change their story over the next few years when they realize implications of various data are now widely available and that have released and accessible from family research councils and often what? Huh? No. I don't have a doobie either. It should be more than one. Oh, here you go. All right, so let's keep reading. So they're saying they got some statistics. Let's get to some statistics. I still haven't been able to pull up my stream on my phone for some reason. For some reason, my stream is not popping up on my phone. So weird. All right. Let's see some statistics. The new data shows that more marriages break down. Okay, the new data that shows more marriages break down, the greater likelihood that girls will later engage in lesbian conduct. The month Mapping America, a project that uses federal surveys to describe Americans as they may be viewed through the lens of family structure and religious practices, focus on homosexual behavior of women in the years preceding this survey. The lowest rate of lesbian behavior, 4%, occurred among women who grew up in an intact married family. So this is what they'll call the correlation, not causation thing, but I think they get cooked with that type of argument. For those who grew up in married step families, divorced single parents, or always single parent households, the rate significantly higher to 6 to 6.6%, while it's highest by far 9.6 among those who grew up in a household where the girl mother cohabitated with a man that's not her father. And I think the correlations I draw from that, or the causations I draw from that, would be the lack of proper male representation could often lead to a woman viewing all men in a bad way. And you see that. People do that naturally. They have one bad personal experience, and then they want to lend that to all business people. They want to lead that to all rich people. They want to lead that to all people in general. All white people are racist because you met one racist white person. All black people are out to get you because one black person shitted on you at work. All women ain't shit because one girl cheated on you and broke up with you. All men ain't shit because one nigga fucked you and then didn't text you the next day. That's how people usually operate, right? So it's not hard to understand when a girl that was in a situation or environment where she didn't have the proper male identifiers or the proper male guidance or the proper male love, where she can distort what a man should be and not want to ever be with a man, or be more inclined to date women because that's just what she feels more comfortable being around. Because if she didn't have the father in the home, how is the mother coding a theme around how men act? Most women, a lot of times, are careless of how they talk about men around their young daughters or around their young sons, especially if they got bitter or trauma towards them. So that's already shaping the girl perspective on how she should view men. And then it goes into the household where the mother cohabitates with a man that's not her father. If the mother and that man have any contentiousness, that could destroy and distort how a young girl could look at men as well, because it's not her father, so she's not going to have empathy for that dude. He's going to start to look at a guy that's a villain, even if that dude took care of them for 2 or 3 years. The moment the mother flips, the daughters don't have a choice but to follow because that's her mother, and she's going to take her mother's side. That's just natural. I challenge anybody, unless their parent was just batshit crazy, to find a kid that's going to pick their step-parent side over their real parent. Like, you will legit have to be a batshit crazy parent for that to happen, I feel like. So that could happen where there's not even something that's just naturally, like that's some natural shit where couples get into relationship problems, and if that daughter is not protected well, as far as she's seeing them fight all the time, she's seeing them argue all the time, that could distort her reality too. And then let's get into the more extreme examples of a lot of times when a mother has a man that's not the father of the child in the household, how that dude could sometimes be a fucking creep. That would tremendously lead to a woman never wanting to touch a man again. Or maybe experience it one or twice here, but but more in doubt be turned off by them, in a sense. Like, that's how I would process these statistics and the different environments that these women had went through and why it could be easier for them to be lesbians. And I think this shit don't have anything to do with toys. But it does have something to do with, like, so when I say it don't have anything to do with toys, because it wasn't that these girls played with too many male toys that turned them gay. It was life experience. And I think that life experience will outweigh most of these things. And I do think, I don't think these lesbian girls, so for instance, if they would have played with more girl toys, I don't think that would have changed their environment to making them like men more, right? Then, vice versa, I do think it's dangerous if you was to give that girl more male toys to play with, give that girl more tomboyish habits to pick up on and play with. I think that would affect her to be even more lesbian, if you ask me, because it's something that's deeper down as far as family shit. And then if you give her more things to go down that path, instead of like therapy or some other type of reinforcements, that could make your shit worse. And the reason I say that is because I think the same versus men. A lot of these dudes already have certain like broken home issues that go on. And then when you have society shitting on every man, then when you have society saying every man ain't shit and telling every man or woman that she don't need a man, it could start to coat the guy that's already coming from a broken home to even go further down that lane. And I think that's similar to what the toy situation is. For a person that's already broken or going through a broken process, I think you have to be especially careful with them, if that makes sense. Because their empathy, their understandings are a little bit off, just based on where they come from, especially at a young age. When women are divided into two groups, those raised in a tech family, both biological parents, versus those raised in any other family grouping, the difference becomes clearer still. The incidence of lesbian behavior is 3 times higher among those raised in families without both biological parents. Classical psychological theory and earlier research focused on important roles that attachment to the same sex parent plays in the sex development of a children. See, this is huge. This is huge. And this is what I talk about being, this statement goes into, it's something that's picked up and not something you're born with. Classic psychological theory and early research focused on important roles attachment to the same sex parent plays in sexual development of a children. That data further indicates that whether the man in the house is the girl's father or not plays a crucial role in positive or negative development of a girl's sexuality. Sexual competence and proper orientation are more likely to happen when there's affection between both parents, between the parents and the child. From other research, we know that when a mother cohabitates with a man who is not the father of her children, the rate of sexual abuse goes up. And I've never even read this. It's just common sense. For children to skyrocket, those present studies. Excuse me, let me slow down. Though the present studies does not delve into this problem, it is likely that there is a linkage between those two phenomenons. Given a continued breakdown into the family, we can expect the rise of homosexual behavior among women, attachment to girls and to their mother, identification with them at the deepest level of sexuality, identity are more likely. So let me read that back again one more time. Attachment of a girl to their mothers and identity. That's a little. girl to their mothers and identification with them at the deepest level of sexuality or sexual identity are more likely to be knocked off their normal course. This non-identification with mother's gender is likely further confounded by the presence of a man in the home who is not their father, and particularly a man in the home who is not dedicated to the welfare of the family through marriage. Results of survey like these further undermine the claim that homosexuality is largely genetics and or biological in origin. So yeah, with this being said, I mean I could wrap this conversation up here honestly because we talk about being a product of our environment, right? Why can when you directly go look into an environment and put a magnifying glass or a microscope on that environment, it starts to breed certain behaviors than when you go to a culture or an environment that has cleaner culture or have a cleaner, like I said, cleaner culture or the more developed culture that they produce way less of that phenomenon. That in itself just speaks to the habit situation. And the thing about the cleaner culture situation, you could never be clean enough because there's always going to be some kids from the school that has some weird parenting. There's always going to be media out here presenting certain shit that you can't control every ounce of media that your kid watches. So there's still a likelihood that they could be influenced and induced by these people with bad rhetorics and things like that, but it's more unlikely. It's not 0% chance, but the fact that it's way more unlikely just speaks to something. I'm sorry. And a guy like this advocating for boys to play with more girl toys, like I said, it feels like a Trojan horse because that only helps push some more line for boys to be more feminine. And in this day and age and era, that's the last thing we fucking need.
And maybe. Wait, what? Wait, Mark. Oh, you part of
I'm there with you.
Mark, you did it. And so,
you want to change the word?
not just the. I don't care about the word so much as how we
human, just how we look at the behavior
and what our expectations are for each other. So part of why it might be interesting to have a boy play with a doll, for example, is so that he doesn't think he's the only one. His wife is the only one. His partner is the only one supposed to be taking care of a baby. And maybe.
Wait, what? Wait, just Mark.
Oh, you part of.
I'm there with you.
Mark, you did it.
I know, we know.
No words over my ass. Salute, man. Sometimes I read too fast. Taking care of kids is feminine. That's why I said, just off the rip for me, before I got into a conversation with Mark and before we go any further, I would have to ask him some questions before I know the parameters of where we're thinking. Because just based on that statement alone, I find it flawed. But I'm more looking at taking care of a baby, just a plain baby, saying, hey, dress that baby up, put clothes on that baby, learn how to change that baby, learn how to coddle that baby. If you tell a boy or young girl that, I look at that as gender neutral. I look at a boy cooking in the kitchen, whether it's a kitchen set or whatever, I look at that as gender neutral. Some other toxic, or not even toxic masculinity, over alpha dude might look at that a certain different way, but then I will argue them. I'm like, isn't it important for a man to be self-sufficient and not need anyone? So why wouldn't he learn how to cook? So that's why I look at that as being gender neutral. So I would have to understand to Mark what he thinks is a feminine toy, I probably would think is a gender neutral toy. And where we could start to glaze what toys he thinks men should play with or young boys should play with, I would have to really get a gauge on that, because his one example of using a baby doll that, you know, that you will take care of, I don't look at that as a certain way. Because even when you're in middle school and home ec, you're going to have to take care of an egg, take care of a baby or something like that. They used to practice that a lot. So, or the thing of flour. So I don't look at that as a feminine thing. So I couldn't just beat him home with that argument just off a doll. Now, if we talk about Barbie dolls or makeup sets or dressing in heels and playing dress up like girls love to do, like, nah, and dressing like a girl, that's where I think shit gets dangerous, because that more often than not, girls love to dress up Barbie dolls because they playing dress up in their head. And then more times than not, you will see that same girl going through her mom's closet wearing all type of shit. I don't want that slippery slope with young boys playing dress up for girls and then feeling so comfortable. Let me go on my mama cause and put on girl clothes. We seen that trope play out in TV shows and shit like that before. So I think it's a slippery slope when you talk about these toys because it's a picked up trait. Being overly feminine, being overly masculine could lead to a girl being a lesbian, or not having enough masculinity in her life could lead to her being lesbian because she's so confused about masculinity. It's a weird paradigm or paradox, but it is what it is. It's life. Vice versa with men. He didn't have enough male influence in his life, so he's confused on what a male is. His mother that is traumatized and hate men always say men ain't shit. Don't be like your father. And then she told you pick up all her habits and traits. Bro, it happens. It happens.
And so,
You want to change the word?
not just the. I don't care about the words so much as how we
human, just how we look at the behavior.
and what our expectations are for each other. So part of why it might be interesting to have a boy play with a doll, for example, is so that he doesn't think he's the only one. His wife is the only one, or his partner is the only one supposed to be taking care of a baby. And maybe.
Wait, what? Wait, you just Mark.
I'm there with you.
Mark, you did it. I know, we know.
And male always is on the side. That's why I said if male sometimes was on the male side of things, bro, it'd be so much more refreshing, bro. But she's always on the side of this ultra liberal. Men gotta fix some things. Men are toxic. Men never doing things the right way. Like, bro, it's so annoying as a listening to a male podcast.
I got more I want to say about that shit too.
They gonna say you said you could say that because we're here, but
See, from Ish, I'm confused to why Ish is saying there's nothing wrong with that, but it's more refreshing to hear from Ish because Ish usually is on the male side of things, so he's taking the liberal side of things. So it's like, oh, that's cool to see. Let's see what Ish has to say. But from male, it's like, bro, you know exactly where she's going.
Toys condition you to understand how the world operates. There's a reason why we give girls easy bake ovens. And historically, we gave them to women because
Get in there and cook, Martha.
Right, it's because women were supposed to do the cooking and the
man
cleaning.
had a Tonka truck.
And the boy had a Tonka truck. That's what we do. We do it in school too. When you have the line leaders and you.
All right, so let's go. He made a toys form how kids think. That's a statement that sounds like a fact. So I had to look it up. Let's see. I thought I pulled something up. What the fuck? I thought I already had my article. Am I tripping? This might be an interesting conversation. Is there something wrong with kids that don't play with toys? Oh, this is not really a article though. Oh, I did not spell that shit wrong too. See, I feel like it would be a clear article that you could find that speaks on how this is a fact. But I didn't find anything on it. I think toys help kids be more imaginative. I do think that. I think stories form how kids think. I think kids watch how other adults interact in their real life is how they think. But I had an article. I swear I had an article. I remember what the. Let me see. What? That's not what I was trying to do. Oh fuck! I'm on. When did I get to 4? What the fuck? I was on page 4. So into recipes, it helps pre- pretending recipes, organize in the kitchen space, enhance problem solving skills. So like I said, I would argue that's a gender neutral toy. I said that from the jump. So I would argue a kid should be in the kitchen learning how, boy or girl. Now, if somebody want to argue me down on that, then yeah, I would probably be on Mark's side of the fence with that one. Like, oh no, a boy should be in the kitchen, and yeah, I think that's so stupid. But I'm more interested in, does a boy playing with girl toys teach him more empathy? Because that's kind of where he's going down. Does those toys make him think more from a female side of things? That's kind of where I'm looking at and trying to figure out.
You go around.
They doing this. They doing this school.
You tell the girl deliver this note. You tell her you were in the front of the line. You tell the boy bring it to bring this box to room to. What?
That's what he said. Who's at the front of the line?
in front of the line, nigga.
Why you got crack jokes?
Because the lines used to go short.
It's high order, bro. It's high.
That's not how my lines used to go. You had a line leader that was earned. It could be the boy or a girl, but maybe in Mark day and age, sure, who knows? But when line leaders for me, you got to, you wanted to be the line leader. You got to do certain things in class, and you could become the line leader.
Order, that's all. So I figured you would bring the box over.
He about to go.
You see him folding his arms, with the little ass arms.
I'm really listening.
You might have been that size when you
Y'all can all laugh, but y'all niggas is all suck up to society, nigga. I'm really listening to this man.
don't try to do that shit.
I'm really-
Nah, I'm 100% on him because what are we saying, bro? I need him to be more clear, and they're not letting them expound, bro. They jumping in, they're not letting a one-on-one happen. So that's what, like I said, it wasn't really much here because I think Flip has a point. It does seem like Mark is just one of these other liberal, wokey ass Democrats that want to push this LGBTQ into our kids. That's what it comes off of. He's doing it more slicker than probably the LGBTQ community has done, but this is one of their narratives. This is a narrative that's came out of their camp. What no masculine men in a room talking about, hey, you know what? Or masculine, reasonable men going in the room talking about, we got to go ahead and put these articles about why men should be playing with more Barbie dolls. No, there wasn't a group of mothers that love their sons talking about, you know what? I would love to see my son playing with more toys. No, you wouldn't. More girl toys. No, you don't. You just don't get that. So where do these narratives come from? It's not coming from parents, like real parents of boys. I don't see that. My mama never was like, why aren't you playing with the girl toys? My mama looked at me a certain way for playing with girl toys because you know what comes with that. And men going to like relationships in their ways and perspectives that they grow up, they'll learn to like relationships and things like that. So even with the playing house, it's like, well, maybe if you play house, that makes you think and wonder how to become more something. Like it helps you be able to problem solve skills and stuff like that. I'm like, bro, I guess, but I feel like that's a hell of a reach. Versus, I think it's just a boy thinking about feminine, like stuff like, oh, what am I gonna do? I can't wait till I get married. It's like, that's not a kid's, at least a young boy's mentality. Girls could think about that Cinderella stuff and all that. Cool. I don't know if that's the most appropriate thing for them to be thinking about at a young age either. But I know for a young boy, bro, it's more about, you should be having fun, being creative, and finding out who you are as a young boy and building your character up as a little boy. So, and the things that you like versus like, I need to go find somebody that I want to love for the rest of my life. That's just, as a kid from 2 years old to 10, I just don't think that needs to be the mindset. So I just don't get where there needs to be a direct change where young boys need to be playing with more feminine shit. I just don't get that approach.
He's about to pander. He's about to pander.
No, I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to listen to you two. You try to talk about my parents. You try to talk about my parents. I'm gonna get at you in a couple minutes. I'm ready to listen to talking about comparing parents. Nigga, who the fuck are you talking to? I'm ready to listen to this man trying to say, yo, I felt the way initially, and now I'm trying to change it because it's unacceptable. Nigga, fuck that. Stand on what you stand on.
And what Flip is saying is like, historically, Mark probably would never say his male son should have played with toys. But now as society has started to change and sway his opinion, he might lean more towards that. And to me, I think that's just bullshit. What about society has showed that they are reasonable enough to flip your fucking mind on how to raise your kids. The fuck? If anything, I wouldn't be listening. I wouldn't trust anything out of society at this point when it comes to raising my kids, whether it's the media, whether it's the schooling system, or whatever the fuck. What are we talking about? So what new themes in society have came out besides transgenderism and LGBTQ push that would make you think differently? It's weird. And I know it's that same line of Obamaism and how they push that shit on us. And it was always a Trojan horse to get to our kids. Oh, let's be more accepting. Let's be more this. Nobody never had most people in the 20th century did not have a problem with gay people doing gay people shit. Even to a point where they started allowing it to be, you could get married in certain states. But the modern re-push in the 2010s and later was all due to programming. Oh, let's be more accepting. Let's be more this. Nigga, we was already accepting. This was a Trojan horse to get to the kids. This was a Trojan horse to push this shit down society's throat for the next 20 years. Because gay people been living fine for a long time. Long time. Being able to be gay and do their thing for a long time. Being able to have pride. I think pride been going back since a minute. So why was there just a need for this new push in all of our media? In all of our TV shows, it got to be a gay dude and a gay love story and something like that now. Why? Why isn't it every show? The masculine shows, the women shows, the kids shows, it's in everything. Because they wanted to push this shit down our throats as a fucking Trojan horse agenda to make society more feminine, make society more emotional, make society more triggered, make society more weak. Because if the men are following this shit, the women show gonna follow it because it already acquiesced to their thoughts and their agendas anyways. So if the men follow it, bro, we got control for the next 100 years. And that's the war that we in. It's a very silent war that I feel like men have been battling. That's where you got the red pill community from. That red pill community was a reaction to how men been feeling. Wasn't a great reaction? Was it the best reaction? You can argue that. I don't give a damn. But the fact that there was an outcry in a market that came out, like red pill has always been around, if you know. But the explosion of it spoke to how men were feeling internally, whether you know it or not, whether women want to acknowledge that or not, whether the men that's the blue pill want to acknowledge that or not.
Don't try to change it, and don't try to change the definition of masculinity or femininity, nigga.
Why?
Because you can't do.
And then he asks why. What about history says that we should change our gender dynamics? This shit is biblical, nigga. What are we talking about, Mark? Men are naturally stronger than women. That's why we take on the role of protection. Through biology, through our creation, through natural selection, we have been the reason why we are the guys that stand on the front lines. We're the guys that's going to go dig a trench. We're the guys that's going to build the fence for the wolves and the lions and tigers and bears not to get in. Because we can do it at an efficient rate that a woman cannot. Because our hand strength is 20, 30 times stronger than a woman. Our back strength is 20, 30 times stronger than a woman. So we go out in the fields and do the hard working shit. Nigga, that's where gender roles come from. The natural things that our body and mind are easier at doing. That's just life. We let pretty much through the years of society, some things have went out of whack and some things wasn't the greatest with how gender roles became. But for the most part, how men have the bubble that men fit into and the bubble that women fit into has worked for years. Women early on, they're used to coddle, take care, nurture the kids at the earlier stage while the man's still there doing their thing. Don't get it twisted. But the woman involvement in the earlier years are way more tremendous than when the father grows up. He's starting to teach them more about the adult. Like that's when he takes over a little bit more from the taking care of them internally. The mother usually does that in the beginning, from the teaching to stuff like that. And the father's there too with the discipline, which that's very a part of internal learning as well. You need discipline. But as the kids get older, who's teaching the lesson starts to transfer to the man, because the man deals with more outside noise than the shit that's like the women deal with more community shit. And the community stuff is just as important, the family dynamics, learning all those things, learning love, learning all these things that women are able to teach and give to their sons and their daughters. That's important, like from 10 to 13. Then when you get to 13, you have all that love and that understanding. Now it's starting to kind of get some of the rigidness of what's going to go on in society, or what's going to go on in this jungle, or what's going to go on when you get old enough to become a man or a woman. And that's when a man starts to, I say, take over a little bit more. So these things just happen naturally, bro. These things have happened naturally. Women being able to be in a household for longer than a boy, like a boy, they usually will get kicked out the house around 16 to 20. A girl could stay in the house from 18 all the way up to like 27 if she waiting to get married. And that was a natural paradigm, because you teach your boy that's strong to be able to fend for himself and going to go out there and build for his own self so he can once have a family one day. And girls, they're more vulnerable to so many different things. You don't want to just tell your girl to go out there and fend for herself. So you will wait for her to have a guy that wants to marry her. And that tradition came from security. That tradition came from logic. That security that idea came from people over time figuring out that's a good culture to have to protect my daughter or whatnot. And even when you look up these, it's differences. What do you call it? It's different studies that prove that as well, from the importance of when the mom usually teaches to the father usually teaches. You could find studies on that. You could find studies, or you could just look out in life. Most women going to look for a guy that has some type of stability more than that they're used to, or what they are having to some degree. It's not going to always be a one for thing, but that's just life. And it's no different than the dynamics that used to go on back in the day. Women expect men today, still today, to be able to, even if they have their own, to protect and provide and help them out in their life. No different than what niggas was doing when they were waiting to pass their daughter to a man for marriage. It's just now that the women are choosing a men versus it was a whole family choosing the men before. And you had to please the whole family, not just the girl, which is what is harder to do. It's harder to please the whole family and say that you're the right man for this guy than it is to do for just a girl that can get in her goofy little feelings temporarily. So even in that sense, you could see how it was more safe. But we're going to say, yeah, let's change gender roles, something that's worked for us for hundreds of years. Like, it's that in itself, it's the little slick shit that you have to catch. Mark said, why? Why shouldn't we change gender roles? What is the big reason to change them? I haven't seen it yet. Because the much as the feminists claim and complain about the matriarchy, the patriarchy, they don't complain when they benefit from it. They don't complain about all of the AC and the roads and the lack of predators out there, as far as like, nigga, we used to get attacked by lions. There ain't a lion in sight. I'm just saying, like, you could be walking in the middle of the night, here's a wolf. Your little baby's going. Like, that used to be life used to be, bro. So the patriarchy over the years have built a good enough society for everyone to exist in peacefully for the most part. It'll never be perfect. People are still human. So no one complains about that. No one complains about how the patriarchy has evolved science, how the patriarchy has evolved doctors and medicine. No one talks about none of that shit. It's always the negative things, like the shit that, I'm sorry that men ain't perfect. And every man can't follow the model of being perfect. And there's going to be bad apples. But for the most part, men as a whole has to help forward society. And obviously women have had their part. But let's when we talk about shitting on men, what is the big deal on why we should change gender roles? What I would be interested in understanding, what should we tweak about gender roles? We want women to be the ones that go out to wars and battle for wars. We want women to go out there and do that. We want women to go out into the oil fields. We want women to go to clean up natural disaster storms. We want women to be the police force, the firefighters. Like, what do we need to change about gender roles so bad, Mark? I don't get it.
And don't try to change the definition of masculinity or femininity, nigga.
Why?
Because you can't.
Why?
You can't do it.
Why? I just did. No, you didn't. You did it for your personal weirdness, and you do it the same shit that your other counterparts do that believe the same weird shit. But most people ain't buying y'all shit. That's why your CNN talking points is the least trusted right now. Because that's all you spewing is these same liberal ass talking points that you get from the Democrat agenda. Oh yeah, we do need to change the definition of masculinity and femininity. Why though? What is so bad about today's age that masculinity is wrong? Because it's not femininity. No one's going to say we need to check anything about femininity. Nobody's going to say we need to redefine anything about femininity. But it's going to all be masculine, the things that we need to change. So I'm just curious, what's so bad about masculinity throughout history? Is it wars? Well, animals and plants go to wars. Like, that's survival of the fittest. That's a natural survival mechanism. That don't got shit to do with men or women. Women gonna fight for survival just like men do. Bugs gonna fight for survival just like humans do. That's a natural proclivity of life. I think I said the word right. If you live, you're going to fight for survival. And that's a natural thing. So if we want to say wars are unnatural and that's men being masculine, well, why don't ants do it? Why do ants fight for resources? Why do bees and shit fight for resources? Because niggas are trying to survive. It's survival of the fittest. That has something to do with God and their creation. They don't got nothing to do with men. So you can't bring war because everything on this planet everything on this planet behaves in that behavior to some degree. What's other like naturally masculine things? I'm trying to think, man. Slavery? That could be looked at as a masculine thing. Most men have roommates in their 30s or living off their girlfriends. I mean, most men, it's insane to say. But, I mean, what's the statistics that prove that? We could easily just look it up. Because if you look up the average 30-year-old male, when you exit slavery masculine, I'm pondering on their thoughts. I'm not for sure. I'm asking what are things that you inherently tie that's negative in society to only masculine behavior. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I know people will say war. I was wondering if people will say slavery. And I'm sure people might lean towards that. Or enslavement, imprisonment, anything like that. But it's an interesting conversation I would have to probably think deeper about. And then to go back to your conversation about the 30s, if we just want to be real, most men statistically are more wealthy than their peers, female counterpart, at whatever age group you want to look at. So to say that they're living off their girlfriend or living at their mother's house, the mother conversation is a different conversation. But I know in the black community, that's not a thing. I don't know where you from. I don't know what's your race. But I know black men living in their parents' household till 27, 30. Now, you do get a lot of black men that live off their girlfriend from time to time, but I don't think it's at the rate that most people think it is. Most times it's either even, some type of 50-50, or the dude is doing a little bit more than the girl when you talk about financially. Yes, I technically have had one for a long time. Why does that matter? Well, let's keep going.
You did it because, and you trying to influence others. No, we stand on what society mean about masculine.
Who's we?
Me.
But that's not
I stand
we.
on it.
It's not society.
I'm not. But then if I am.
And this is the thing about Flip. It's hard to slow down when everybody's throwing little shit at you. And like, don't speak for me. No, I am speaking for y'all, because I know y'all wouldn't play that shit about y'all kids. If motherfucking y'all boys had boys and y'all seen y'all walked in the room and seen y'all kids playing with a Barbie doll, y'all motherfuckers ain't taking that shit. You gonna have a little nigga in football practice the next week. So I just, that's what Flip mean when he say, I know y'all playing in society shit right now. Y'all pandering. but it's hard for him to check them because they playing so fraudulent right now. If you ask me,
Society mean
Who's
about
we, though?
masculine.
Who's we?
Me.
But that's
I
not
stand
we.
on that.
and I don't like E in this situation because if your little brother, you came in the house and you seen your little brother have a whole doll set of Barbie dolls, you looking at your little brother away. And you would want him to not do that. You would coach him not to do that. What are we talking about? I mean, financially, I mean, technically, yes. Are you doing better than her? I mean, that's subjective on what you think better is. I think everybody has something to work on. But if you want to talk about just finance to finance, I would technically make more. But I don't really think that matters. Because everyone's relationship is different. Everyone bonds different. And what helps that person bond thrives. Both people signed up for that bond. So, I mean, it's just for instance, like, even if a girl did make more money than a dude, what does that mean? A dude could still be a leader. A dude could still teach his girl how to make better moves in society just because how she was raised. She could have went to school, finished school, had her parents there for her, so she was able to get to a certain place in society he wasn't. But that don't mean he still don't got God in him. That don't mean he still don't have reason in him. That don't mean he ain't went through a certain amount of lessons that he can't help her out with just because he hasn't hit a certain financial level. Finances don't indicate intelligence. Finances don't indicate wisdom or lack of wisdom. I hate how people love to correlate those things. Jesus wasn't the richest man in the world, and he was the most wisest. So finances has nothing to do with it. So if Jesus was dating a woman that was richer than him, Jesus couldn't have been a leader. Like, what? That just doesn't make sense. That's not how life works. It's not apples to oranges. Meanwhile, if a man did have, so just the vice versa, if a man had more money than a girl, you know how often I would go to my girl and ask her, what should I do? Or what do you think is a good idea? Like, if we're in a bond, we're here together. My decisions affect you. So why wouldn't I ask you for situations, even if I have more money than you? That doesn't mean I have all the wisdom in the world and I know how to move at every step. And I know how you're going to react to every step I make. No, that's just stupid. So to me, going straight to who does better because who makes more money financially, that doesn't make sense to me because finances and how you make them could be so wide range of variety. And just because you have money now, that don't mean you're going to keep that money to when you're 50, 60, 70 years old. You might have just had a good job. And vice versa, when I hit my 35s, 40, and I kind of figure myself out, I could be able to carry shit way better than I did when I was in my 20s and 30s and I had nobody there for me to help me. So it's just, to me, finances are a thing that come and go. I wouldn't judge how I look at my spouse based on finances. It's too fickle. You could lose a good, high-paying job in a matter of a heartbeat, and it could have been the most stable job in the world, but due to the recent economy and tariffs or some shit, y'all ain't got a job no more. Your job is being disbanded. All of a sudden, you're no longer the wealthiest person in the family. I'm supposed to disrespect you now and not listen to you no more? That's weird. Well, Sandra, you come here to be obviously negative. I could ask you the same question, but I don't want to be disrespectful. Are you in a relationship? Because how you coming off at me, I could ask you the same thing. Even the questions that you ask are a little too, weird for me. Like, you asking these questions are personal questions, but I'm willing to answer you because I'm transparent. Then when I answer these personal questions, you're still taking personal digs. That's weird from two humans that don't know each other. So I would ask and wonder, if you can act like that to a perfect stranger, how would you act like to your spouse? And then that would make me wonder, do you have a spouse? If you want to play that game, is that person happy? We could keep playing that game. I'm sure you're a great spouse. How you're challenging, attacking me, that you're the person you don't even know. So that's the game that I don't like to play. Because just because you're in a situation, that ain't vindicative of happiness. That's not vindicative of success or anything. Everybody's life is different. So one person that's in a 15-year relationship could be the most successful person in the world. Another person that's in a 15-year relationship could be the most miserable person in the world. Doesn't matter. I've been in a relationship for, I don't know, over 12 years. It's been 2025. We met in 2011, over 13 years, or 2012 or something like that. So 12 going on 13 years. Well, pretty much 12. Let's just say 12. So, like, but I'm not going to sit up here and say I can shit on somebody that's only been in a 3-year relationship. Like, you're trying to find, like, I guess, indicators to say why I'm flawed, and I can just tell you that I am. I don't have to sit up here and act like I'm perfect. There's a lot of things I could work on, and I'll never be ashamed to say that. And there's everything. I work on myself every day. So I'm not really tripping on that. You could take personal digs, just like I take personal digs at you. Everybody's flawed. You're just joking. You're just joking. When you ask a person, do they have a girlfriend? Okay. You're just joking when you ask, are you doing better than them? That shit that's very toxic. That shit that when they say don't let outsiders get in your relationship, that's what they mean. Because those little things that you said could make a person look at their spouse a different way if they wasn't securing themselves. FYI. But you're just playing, right? That sounds like a man that's barely making it financially. That's extremely disrespectful coming from a woman. Honestly. Because what can I really say back to you without me looking toxic? But you're just playing, right?
Sorry to hear you.
I'm not. But then if I am me, then I shouldn't be shunned or made fun of for my personal beliefs. I should be accepted.
Would you tell that to a racist white man? Would you tell
I tell
that
that to anybody.
No.
Let's move on. Let's see what they got to say about this. So, Mark, go-to argument is always racism. Well, if a white person was doing it, like, bro, that's not equivalent to everything. Let's get into it.
I stand on it. I'm not. But then if I am me, then I shouldn't be shunned or made fun of for my personal beliefs. I should be accepted.
Would you tell that to a racist white man? Would you tell
that to anybody?
No, listen to what I'm saying. Would you tell?
Yes.
Hear my question before you just say yes.
Yes.
So his question is, I shouldn't be shunned for having personal beliefs. And then he wants to go into, would you tell that to a white man that's racist? Why are we tying into extreme people? Obviously, anybody that's extremist, you wouldn't do that for. They obviously live in a different paradigm. But we don't treat all situations the same. So a person that seems reasonable, a person that seems like a good withstanding citizen that's not approaching or enabling on other people's rights, if they have beliefs and ideals, you have no right to be able to be disrespectful for what they believe. That's simple. It's that simple. Now, when you want to throw in the, oh, what if he's a racist? What if he's a sex offender? What if he's a con artist? Well, no shit. They need to be rehabilitated. That's what jail is for. And, well, that's what jail should be for. But a person that is a tax-paying citizen, that got family, friends, that's a fan base, a platform that people could fuck with, that they ain't really, like I said, fucking with other people or other cultures like that in a way that's like just disgusting, then what are we talking about? Why? What is this need to want to change how people view and see things?
Okay. No, you won't. Do you eat dicks?
Do I do what?
And then this is supposed to be Mr. Doctor. Do you eat dicks? Like, bro, to me, I get what Flip was saying. Don't play with me like that. Like, we're having a real conversation. It's a passionate conversation. I know where you're going, and I said yes to be a little disparaging to your argument, but I wasn't too disparaging to a point where you gotta say do eat dicks to try to make a joke. It's like, bro, we're being real, we're being passionate. Let's not go there. And Mark does that shit, bro. He is the slick guy that plays like a smart guy. But when I say he has all the same tactics of a regular Twitter nigga, that's all he is to me. With a little extra spice with his words. That's it. But essentially, bro, he reverts back to the same tactics when a nigga is losing an argument to me.
You did it because, and you trying to influence others. No, we stand on what society mean about masculine.
Who's we?
Me.
But that's
I
not
stand
we.
on it.
Big D, fine.
I'm not. But then if I am me, then then I shouldn't be shunned or made fun of for my personal beliefs. I should be accepted.
Would you tell that
by
to a
my
racist
friends.
white man? Would you tell
I
a
tell
racist-
that to anybody.
No, listen to what I'm saying. Would you tell?
I would yes.
Hear my question before you just say yes.
Yes.
Okay.
No, you won't.
Do you eat dicks?
Do I do what? See, I wouldn't play with dicks with you. So you do shit like that.
I don't want you to play with me.
No. Stop touching me. Hold on.
Listen to what I'm saying. I'm trying to ask you.
I wouldn't play with dick words with you, and you do that a lot.
Ain't no context. Like, I don't give a fuck what the context is. Like, I get why you did it. You were trying to show me why you just shouldn't say yes to a situation, but you didn't have to use dicks, bro. Watch out with that gay shit. Like, for real. There's many ways he could have did that shit. To me, that's being disrespectful. And then for a guy to say I wasn't being disrespectful, that's that that slimy shit I'm talking about. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, bro. Would I eat dicks? Why are you saying that in a public engagement between two dudes that are straight? You trying to play. When I'm trying to be honest, I think Flip is trying to be honest. Obviously, Flip don't be getting his words out all the time, and everybody's that way sometimes when they get emotional. They don't be the most clear with their points from time to time. Or sometimes they hard of hearing. They might miss what you're saying or whatever. But I don't think that's an excuse to try to play a nigga. And when a person says it's disrespectful, you just, oh, it's not, I promise. It's like, nah, I think that shit's slimy. I think that shit's sleazy. Because any other time a nigga say, would you eat some dicks? Nigga, you're getting snuffed. If this wasn't no podcast and a nigga said that, I don't know what the context could have been. I wouldn't have gave a fuck. You're getting snuffed. What you say about dicks? We were talking about something completely different. Like, it's just weird.
I would never play with dicks.
I'm not being disrespectful.
No, you can play pause. Let's talk about a doctor talking to a guy that he likes.
I'm trying to ask you a
I would
question,
never
but you
play
want me to
with
ask you.
dicks with you. Don't play with me with dicks, please.
And he's still joking. Like I don't like niggas like that. Personally. I'm trying to have a real conversation and you playing.
Don't touch me.
You missed my point.
Nobody's touching. He was trying to ask you a question, and you kept saying yes.
So I asked you a question.
I don't care that was the reason. Honestly, I wouldn't care. There was a multiple ways that you could have tried to play what I was doing in that moment when I kept saying yes. You didn't have to go to dicks. I'm sorry, bro. Like, that's just, at a certain point, bro, what are we doing as men? Like, don't explain it. Don't try to explain that shit to me, bro. Don't try to reason that shit to me. Because in any other scenario, if y'all was in that situation, bro, you'd be like, what, nigga?
Question that you wouldn't say yes to. That was the point.
Like, that shit was lame as fuck, bro. What are we saying?
I wasn't actually.
That you wouldn't say yes to, so you can stop saying yes.
Calm down.
That's what he was doing.
Come on,
What's the question, Mark?
Would you tell him right?
Essentially getting jumped, bro. So it's hard for them to stand on this shit. Me, 10 toes down.
Would you tell a racist would you tell a racist white man that that's just how
That's just my beliefs. It's been like that forever, and I'm not changing it. And don't try to change my life. That's what I was trying to.
That's an extreme situation. That's an extreme situation. Is it a white man out there that's extremely racist, and would you tell him he shouldn't change his ways and how he think? If we go to extremes, you can always make a point. That's easy to understand. If you want to make a point, use the most extreme thing you can find. I guarantee you can make a point from it. Now, does that mean someone's always being disingenuous? Not necessarily, but that seems to be Marc's go-to. Let me bring up racism, the most extreme thing, and compare it to your reasonable thinking self and show you how you should not think that way. It's like, well, I'm not an extremist, so while we're using that same form of logic, like everything is linear.
I'm trying to ask you.
Would I tell a racist white man that?
Yes, and you just kept saying yes without hearing me, so I was trying to get you to listen.
If a racist white man asked me the same question about what? I don't
No.
understand.
Well, all right, let me hear me out. Just hear me out. Before you listen, just hear me out. You're saying that you have a set of beliefs.
I do.
And they're long-standing beliefs.
Yes.
The world has had these beliefs for a long time.
Yes.
And people shouldn't try to change you.
At all.
There is half the country of race, or there's a whole bunch of racist white men who say the exact same shit about why we're nigger monkeys. Sure. And what I'm trying to say is,
Why would I be telling them anything? If they say that to me, I don't give a fuck.
Call us nigga monkeys.
That's what they call it.
No, he's saying that if you were around with the white people, remember you went to Ohio?
Yeah.
This is a bullshit point, and we're getting stuck on some semantic shit.
Yes.
And the white people could say, no, this is my long-standing belief that y'all are inferior to us.
So let's just wrap this up with gender neutral or gender shit like that, because this is where it started from. And he's saying that you're trying to change the definition of masculinity and femininity. Historically, there are things that has been wrong with masculinity and things that's been wrong with femininity. But for the most part, it has been getting filtered out. The negatives get filtered out over the years, especially in America or in modern societies. So I would ask, what about masculinity would you say is so equivalent to those racist things that you say that needs to be changed, that masculine people are just stuck on having or set in their ways about having? If you're going to bring up the equivalent to a guy that's racist that needs to be reformed, what about masculinity truly needs to be reformed? And I think that's where we can have a real talking point. All this other hoopla and shit like that, it's not grabbing me like he think it is in the sense of his conversational rebuttals. Because, like I said, masculinity has helped innovate, evolve, like protect, and I don't know the word I would say, but help us be abundant to a point where we ain't gotta really worry about shit outside of, bills, but you always have a meal to eat. You can gotta go buy a meal for a fucking $1 if you want to. You can go eat something for 50 cents. You can go eat a meal for 50 cents if you want to. It might not be a great meal, but it's the same as kids in Africa don't have great meals. But then if you have $2-3 more bucks, you can eat a lot better. So to a degree, yes, everything isn't perfect in society. But is that inherently because of masculine things that we didn't check? I don't think so. So I would argue, what's so bad about masculinity that needs to be reformed? Be an interesting point to hear back from.
And y'all are niggas and y'all are monkeys and y'all not worth the ground that y'all on. So that's their long-standing...
Would I agree with them, he's asking?
That's their long-standing belief. So is it okay for them to still stand in that? Would you try to change their mind?
Because you say nobody should be trying to change each other's minds on these long-standing beliefs. I'm saying that's exactly what we do.
You went to Ohio for that purpose.
Yeah, but you can't change their mind, though. I wouldn't stand with them in their beliefs, and of course I would stand on the side that I believe
But
on.
you think it's right to try to change their beliefs?
You went there to Ohio to have a conversation with these people and have a dialogue and engagement.
And that's what I'm doing with you.
Do you respect the fact that they have that belief and that's okay with you? Like,
do I respect the fact that they have the belief?
Because that's what you're asking us to do. With,
right.
Yes and no.
Because you know it's no. You know it's no, and he got you.
Yes,
so go ahead and admit, yo, I got you, and I understand your point.
Yes and no, though.
Let me hit it.
I hate when niggas don't let niggas get their one-on-ones, bro. I ain't gonna lie. That jumping in shit is like, especially for this point, because even then, like, y'all trying to act like he has a point with the racism shit, but he's using an extreme example versus a guy that most people agree with. Most people are on the fence of boys should be boys and girls should be girls. I say if you took a poll, 80% of people would say boys should be boys and girls should be girls, and based on historical norms. So it's not an extreme way of thinking that Flip has. But for instance, I think Mark's form of thought is a cancer that he's trying to spread onto the masses. And he uses these rebuttal and talking points to make you feel like you are backed in the corner, because it's like, how can I speak against my people when, brother, this don't have nothing to do with racism. And that situation, because once again, I don't think gender norms are as extreme as a guy that wants to go out and hang black people. Maybe I'm crazy. Now you could say some of the extreme gender norms, but the extreme of anything is bad and unbalanced. And it will always be out there. Everything ain't always just be centered and balanced. You can't have, every man is not going to be centered. Every woman is not going to be centered. Every organization is not going to be, every person in that organization is not going to be centered. There's going to be people that lean more to the extreme side of things. That's just how it goes. So it's not necessarily the gender's fault or the culture's fault, because that's just normal behavior for any culture. No culture can be 100% clean. That's just not normal.
Like,
their belief
yes, he's right, but no, I don't want to admit it.
No. Their belief is their belief, and I know I can't change their belief.
Right.
And I will stand in on my belief, and I'm willing to have the debate about the belief.
So you can have a debate with both of us going back.
Well, we're going to move on. Like I said, they wasn't really talking about shit. We got some basketball games to Dizzy. Let me see. I know the Nuggets play. What time they play, though? I think Nuggets play last. But what's the first game start today? 6:30, so about 20, 30 minutes. Tim Ledger, where are all the Russ haters at? They're hiding behind the Russ roller coaster, live by Russ, die by Russ tweet. They're loud again and blame Russ turnovers. He lose. I enjoyed the silence yesterday. Hey, man, one thing about Russ, the thing is about superstars, and the thing I learned about Russ is, yes, he does shit he does things bad, bro. I've seen it through the years. He'll shoot a three and then hit backboard, or even, for instance, he tried to dribble off the guy's back. If that shit would have worked, that shit would have been crazy because like he would have maybe had an open layup or some shit like that. But it looked horrible in the moment. But at the same time, you got to be willing to have a guy to do that. It's no different than the John Moran throwing that shit off the backboard. That shit could have went over the backboard or some shit, and he looked the most sorriest nigga in the league. But it's a guy that's be willing to try shit and push the limit that you have to be willing to have out there on the court. Because he also does the other things. But Russ always wanting to take that big shot has led to him being one of the most clutch point guards of all time. Yes, he's had some horrible moments, but the fact that he's willing to take those shots versus there's guys out here that'll shy away from the moment. And they could be 10 times better than Westbrook, as they say. They were saying Giannis ran away from free throws last year. They say LeBron run away from moments at certain times, whether that's true or not. I ain't trying to get into it. They said I've seen sometimes KD will shy away from the ball even back in the day, and that's how Russ ended up getting it. I'm trying to think. It's just been players over the Ben Simmons or other guys that's on your team where in the moment you want them to make a big shot, bro, they just a deer in the headlights and they won't take the shot. Versus you get guys like a Jordan Poole on the Warriors, bro. He's shooting with all the confidence, whether it's vets around him, whether he's getting criticized or not. And that more times than not end up being a guy that's shooting with confidence and will step up in a moment that other guys will shine away from. And I think that's what makes Russ so great. Every play is a new play from him. He fucked up on that. He threw the ball on a dude back, and that could have looked horrible. He walked to the bench, he reset and came back out and started balling in the OT, getting rebounds, playing hard. He didn't let that one bad thing affect how he played, bro. And that's a level of professionalism you have to want. Whether I don't give a fuck about if I missed 3 game winners before or 5 game winners before, I'm still gonna pull this bitch up with confidence. And that's what led to him being just like he has some of the most all-time horrible moments in not all-time horrible moments, but he has some bad moments in the clutch situation that people love to kill him for. You can go look at Russ clutch moments, bro, and you like, bro, that nigga's the truth. And it's just the guy that's willing to take that shot. And I revert back to LeBron, one experience. The All-Star game when it was the OGs, the good mix of like one of the last good All-Star games. LeBron James had it late against Kobe, and he kicks it to the corner, and he turns the ball over. All the dudes said, bro, you got to go up and shoot that. Bro, you got to be the one to finish that. And it's not that sometimes there will be a time you got to force the pass. But even in the moment he did it, he kicked it without making any motion. He kicked it just trying to kick it and get it out of his hands. He ain't drive off the pick and roll where the defense collapsed and then he kick it. It wasn't that type of situation. He kicked it hella early. Led to a turnover. All the OGs like, bro, you got to shoot that. And that's that where over time I think he did get more comfortable. Like LeBron, he does have some clutch shots. But all that pressure on him, he didn't want to necessarily have to be the guy to take the fall for it because he wanted to be liked. He wanted to be loved, whatever the psyche that goes into those thinking. But that's how a lot of guys is. There's many different things that go in their mind and make them shy away from that shot. And it's really just about having confidence. LeBron's a great player. I'm sure if he just takes the shot confidently, bro, he gets a good chance that shit goes in. So that's just what I think is so huge. The same thing with Ben Simmons. It's like you're right under the basket, bro, and you kick it to a guard or whoever it was that was smaller than you when you could have just went up and dunked on, was it Trae Young? So that in itself, bro, is just understanding like why a guy that could be a little sporadic, you still got to have him on the court because sometimes Jamal Murray seems like he shies away from things. Sometimes Jamal Murray be balling too. He's a weird guy, weird inconsistent guy. As far as like he could be a star, but he's like he doesn't make that next level. Michael Porter Jr. Sometimes it just seems like he might shy away from things. So it's better to have a guy on the court that not scared to take the shot, whether the defense is trying to shit on him or not. He gonna pull up with confidence. Or you could be Andre Roberson. I used to hate it, bro. That nigga the defense got in his head. Like, bro, keep pulling that bitch. Fuck it. In some games, the nigga dropped 29 because he was shooting confidently. Then it was like the games you could just tell he was in his head, bro.
Takeaway from this one, what stood out?
Biggest takeaway for me is where are all the Russell Westbrook haters out there, right? Because there's always a bunch of Russell Westbrook detractors, and you're 0-1 right now without Russell Westbrook. I thought Russell Westbrook was actually the most impactful player in that game in the second half of the fourth quarter into overtime. The number of plays that he was involved in that gave them a chance to win that game, that to me is what stood out more than anything. And, you look at what a great addition he's been all year. You live with some of the stuff, the decision-making, you live with some of that stuff because I've always said it, the bottom line is the guy absolutely wants to win as much or more than anybody on the floor, and he proved that. And without him and the playmaking that he came up with, whether it was offensive glass or weak side cuts or a huge corner three, like whatever they needed. And then a couple of bad decisions too. But I just thought, to me, Russell Westbrook was the takeaway from that game. Even if you go back and just listen to it with your eyes closed, no one's name got said more in the last 6 minutes of the fourth quarter, 5 minutes overtime, than Russell Westbrook. His name was said more than any player. Because his fingerprints were all over it. So I think that, for me, was what the headline was for me. Westbrook saves the day for the Nuggets because I just thought he came through in a big way.
And he saved it?
Hey, I love Russ, man. It's no hot. I can't lie, bro. The good and the bad. It's the same thing with the Clippers. I want to say last year, where I think Kawhi and PG got hurt eventually, and they ended up still getting the game off the Suns, or was it the Suns? I think it was the Suns. I think it was KD. He was getting blocks and shit on KD, and they ended up stealing the game. And if Kawhi and PG hurt, they probably could win that series if you still game one. So I think it's a difference. Russ, at this point in his career, he's nowhere near like his MVP years, but still a hell of a player, bro. Still a hell of a player. Kendrick Lamar has signed with Chanel, brand ambassador. This is a good convo. I might leave this one for the pod because I know we're going to talk about this. But people shitting on them. And I just go back to what I said yesterday. Let me finish this shit. In the snow cone. But it just goes back to what I said yesterday. It's a popularity contest, bro. And all it takes is one moment for the people to start to sway very quickly. And who knows what that moment would be, or if there'll ever be a moment like that for Kendrick where shit just swishes and people not fucking with him. But a lot of things he's been doing since post-beef is not being well received. I'm sorry. Like, not as well received as it could be if he did shit more calculated. I think people perceive him as being calculated, but I don't. I don't think none of this shit's been calculated. I don't think the Black Shoelaces song was calculated. I think that was a response to a lot of the kind of frivolous and words and things that was out there on social media conversations, and he was getting a little tired of that, so he threw that out there. I think all of his tops and all the top dogs and all them dudes that keep responding and shit like that, none of that shit's been calculated. I think this shit's all emotional and shit like that versus you look at Baca, this nigga first time talking, and he was like, with Drake him, ain't nobody talking for real. But like Drake is, is obviously it's subliminals. They both doing subliminals, but they way more quiet on that aspect of things. When it comes to just some other things, the GNX shit, I feel like I think he took a month or two to create that album. I don't think that album was something that or project like he really took his time with and really had a vision behind it. I feel like it was a reactionary measure, get the West Coast still bumping, and most people thought he was going to drop another project after that because it's like, oh, we thought he was going to drop a classic. And I think that's me speaking to him being more calculated. He's obviously playing chess to some degree, but I just feel like a lot of his chess moves been a little bit of some missteps. Marc watching me, I doubt it, bro. I doubt it. It's because Marc, I don't want to get back into that bag, bro. He's just not, man. He need hits for the stadium. I think that was a thing that people were saying too. Like, we just expected that stadium tour to be built off a classic album, not GNX. We all thought before the Super Bowl or right after the Super Bowl, another album was coming. And we thought that was going to be at least a GNX and another album tour, not just GNX. And obviously he got hits that he can play from back in the day, which is cool, but I think most people thought he was going to have some shit that was new, that was really just running shit. And I just speak to not being as well received as it could have. I think his most well received thing was the pop out post beef. After that, nothing has been as nearly as successful as the pop out. If you ask me. And a lot of stuff has been counterproductive. A lot of shit has been showing his hypocrite ways. A lot of people going back to when he said on the N95, take that, what are you when you take that brand name off of whatever shit he is, he said. But the biggest hypocrite in culture ever seen, none of the hip-hop heads gonna say nothing, no. The pop-up was legendary. Like I said, I think that was his best move post-beef. But after that, everything kind of been a little shaky. Like, and not as executed. Like, it could have been executed way better. That's all I'm saying. The Super Bowl could have been executed way better. GNX, I feel like could have been way better. Even like the shit around the Super Bowl could have been way better. Like, his interview was cool. Shit was kind of lackluster. Like, trying to just think of all the little shit that's came out since. Oh, the Yachty, not the Yachty shit, the Playboy Cardi shit. It was cool, but it wasn't received with how he was received with the beef and winning the beef. It wasn't received on how pause. Pause. And it wasn't received the same on how people looked at how great that pop out was. It was looked at on a lower level. Yep, pop out over Super Bowl, exactly. Wait. The greater and less than sign always fuck me up. I ain't gonna lie. Okay, yeah, pop out is greater than Super Bowl. Yeah, I see it now. I remember. It took me a second. I ain't gonna lie. I know I got a little bit of dyslexia somewhere in there, but I fight it because I don't give in to no crutches. One of the least influential rappers of all time getting the brand deals is insanely forced. Nigga hasn't set one trend, hasn't made one trend more popular, can't dress, has absolutely no influence on the culture or any aura to speak of. These brands will start to realize soon. What a revolutionary. He really out here sticking it to the industry. Motherfuckers talking about trends. All they care about is looking like the next motherfucker. This about art for Kendrick. Kendrick fans right now, oh my God, the owner supported a male clothes for Hitler, and Hitler killed Jews, and Kendrick killed Drake in a rap battle, and he's a Hold on. Hey, brother. Hey, that's a different level of chess right there, bro. If you gotta give it to Kendrick, if that was the truth, bro, that'd be fucking insane. But the fact we know, obviously, it's a joke, bro. That shit's utterly hilarious. Obsessed. Do we think once again, just like I said with Luther in the black and white, are they copying each other? Are they watching each other? Or are they just their moves just so happen to be so in sync? Was this Chanel deal been in the works? Did Drake know that Kendrick had a Chanel deal? Because it can go any way. Like, Drake could be pre-trolling. Like, bitch, I know you got a Chanel deal coming. I know all this shit. Now I'm about to play. Who knows? Vice versa. Is Kendrick watching Drake after you see the crying and Chanel shit? You like, oh, let me go give me a Chanel deal. Who knows? Who fucking knows? And what a lend to it being Kendrick does is a Drake watcher, obviously the beef. But what was it? 616 when What's the Dirk said he was mimicking him. The shit talking about the boats and marinas. I'll go to Ibiza, whatever the shit he said. And he was supposedly mocking Drake. So he clearly watches Drake. The beef, the women he fucks, how he raises his kid. Pretty infatuated if you ask me. But hey, let's move on. Mustard. I guess we was moving on. Hey, my algorithm be keeping me in a box. I'm not going. They know what get me going. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't going back and forth with a nigga that's happy to change music or another nigga's toilet seat. Let's just end it here. I'm richer than you and have more hits than you. I have multiple houses with my own toilet seat and my own chains to wear. That's cool. Mustard. I salute. Gordo has been talking a little wavy, so I salute the producers going at it, but Gordo knew with this shit. And he got his own little, not his own sub-demographic, but he's in a whole different demographic of producing, and they got a little wave going. House music and all that type of shit that they got going over there, that's just a little wave. I know black people getting into that shit or fuck with that shit heavy, so yeah, it's one of them things where Gordo might be super successful looking down later in his career, but not new. You talking about house music? Yeah, that's why I wouldn't say he started it, but he interjected himself into something. Carnage been around forever. Gordo. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, but he's reinvented himself, I guess. But I don't know what he's known for before Gordo. Bricks by Migos. Oh wow, okay. Had no idea. But salute. Everybody, come and eat at a different wave. Like Mustard, he cooked shit early on. He was hot. Not so hot anymore. I'm sure he was way hotter than Gordo, but shit, that don't mean he gonna always be more successful. Most likely he probably will. But I don't know. I don't like the shitting on the guy just because you got more shit than him. But I get it. They on different sides of the fence, so they gonna throw out disses either way. He like EDM DJ. Yeah, EDM. I guess I feel like that's tied into house music, but I don't know. I just know it's a wave out there. I don't listen to this shit much, but I did listen to Gordo album, but I don't listen to people outside of that, so I'm not gonna act like I'm well in knowing what's going on in that lane. But I know it's hot. I know it's popping. I know it's the them anime tatted up kind of gothic kind of people be fucking with that shit heavy. And even now, like DJs, it's a DJ that comes to my job on Fridays. They do a lot of what them EDM people used to start off doing, how they'll flip and spin beats and different songs and shit. I feel like EDM people start doing that shit heavy. And I'm sure it's always been done, but I feel like they start doing it heavy now. Even more rap DJs are starting to do that a little bit more, where they might mix the Mary J. Blige with a rap beat or vice versa. They'll mix a Mary J. Blige beat with a whatever. Let's see what they talking about.
You're dealing with older people. They're the last to know that things have changed. We not your little niggas. Like, the way you talking, I don't get what you mean. We're not your little niggas. Like, for real. All that big homie stuff, that's for little niggas. Little niggas have big homies.
I've seen this before.
We're not little niggas, so we don't even respect big homies. I know Killer doesn't, and for me, I never respected niggas in the streets. That's why I always got the problems I got. Niggas would tell me, Mace, chill. No, chill for what? Who is this nigga? That's how I feel listening to this, man. Like, I want to respect.
Oh, that was a legendary rant. Let's see if we can find some other rabbit hole shit to get into. Actually, I bookmarked some things. Let me get into them bookmarks. Oh, I did want to get into this. I'm glad I thought about it. Let's see if I let them flow without me interrupting for a little bit.
If you only want to focus on your lived experience,
well, what else do you go based off
versus getting new experiences?
Well, that's what she's saying. She's accumulating new experiences, dating younger men who seem to have a less traditional way of thinking, and they're a little bit more fluid in their way of thinking and acting. That's what she also goes on to say after that.
So you're sliding.
Whatever you want to describe it as.
She's sliding them. She's sliding them.
Whatever you want to describe. Listen.
That just sound like justifying toxic femininity.
Why is this? What does toxic femininity have to do with this particular situation? She's not saying.
I think Joe's gonna articulate it well. I'm not sure if it's later in the clip, but I'm gonna see first to see if I have to explain it before, because I don't want to let this shit ramble too long.
Sitting up there talking about feminism and being a feminist. Her lived experience is, you're right, she's Diana Ross's daughter. She's been famous since she was in the fucking womb. She's a fucking unicorn. And I use that term because there really is not a lot of women or people that can understand what her life has looked like. Being famous from being a child.
I think it's disingenuous. I think we can all understand that even though their life is a little more scaled up than ours, they go through the same wants and needs and questions that all basic humans go through. And we also know statistically, bro, yeah, there might be a little bit of more challenges for her to find someone that's can acquiesce to her lifestyle, but there's plenty of people out there that will acquiesce to it. And that's what's being disingenuous, because she's trying to make it seem like when she says she's this unicorn, that it's just so hard for her to, so hard for us and so hard for her life to be adjustable to other people. And I just think that's too much grace and too much leniency when it comes to, there's other successful black men, there's less successful black men that's still willing to work with her, there's other races and things like that. But for the most part, everyone in their own life deals with their quirks that they have to be able to understand and work with that could go against them in a dating community or in a dating atmosphere. We all have little things that you have to be able to find the person that matches the things that they're okay with, the little quirky, lame things that you do, or the little things that what other people may think is lame, they actually like about you, like genuinely like about you, or genuinely think is clever, or genuinely think is cool to do, versus another person may not. Everyone has those challenges to some degree. It's just different things. Some people, it might be they may like anime, or their favorite thing to do is play chess or play video games, or even love sports, and they want someone that's in that type of realm to some degree, or like going to the library, or like hiking, or like long vacation trips, or whatever it may be. You might like someone on a physical asset and you actually had a crush on that person, but they don't like anything, or they don't mesh with you as well, and that could lead to certain disappointment. That could lead to you having to find someone else, or having to do harder work and go find someone that fits with you better. And I think everyone goes through that. Her instance is money. Her money situations, it's hard for her to deal with people on a level where she feel like she's not being used, or it's hard for her to deal with a level of where a man may feel insecure because they're not matching her level of success. But at the same rate, there's plenty of men out there, and you just have to do your due diligence. And I'm sure there's plenty of men she came across that was perfectly fine in those situations. But over time, it's things that she probably didn't check in the mirror that kept leading to failed relationships, or it's just something in her that just not about long-term relationships, and she has to come to grasp to that, where it's something in you where you just not meant to be in long-term relationships, and until you correct that, you will never be in it. But you can't blame the opposite sex. That's when you start getting into why we have a label for that. Men are called incels. Men are called blue-pilled, or not blue-pilled, or I forget the word, where it's like the niggas that escaped. I always forget the damn word for it. But for those examples, we have labels and terms for those guys that have felt a certain level of defeatedness. And that's kind of what Joe is hinting at when he talks about toxic femininity, and pretty much that's what you're operating out of. You're operating out of fear. You're operating out of trauma. You're operating out of victimhood mentality. And most men will call that out in other men when other women will placate and let you play victim and give you sympathy when in reality they need to be holding a mirror up to your face as a real friend.
And living, you know, and probably having access to wealth, and then becoming famous.
I ain't gonna lie. Even if y'all thought Marc was gonna cook me, I could give a fuck less. I'm cold at this shit. I talk about anything and everything under the sun and give niggas motherfucking facts.
In her own right, and having an enormous amount of success from girlfriends and then Blackish. Like, her lived experience is extremely unique, and so it's really difficult to apply everyday kind of standards and thoughts to her to what she's experienced.
Man, you know.
Okay, hold up for a second.
Go ahead.
That was awesome, first of all.
Thank you.
But it's still both of those things can be true.
Yes.
I'm who I am the same way these
You're right.
Wait, I want to start before I forget, because you asked me a question. I think anybody operating from I think anything that's operating in trauma or rooted in trauma is toxic. Guy or girl.
Okay, so why are you using the word trauma though?
Because you said she's based on her past life experience.
Lived experience.
And trauma with these types of controlling men.
You all use the word trauma. I just said lived experience.
But
I'm not using the word trauma.
You didn't, but he did.
Let me land and then have a blast with it. When I mentioned getting new experiences, you countered with her lived experience. So if you are afraid of new experiences or shaping your experiences to only be one way because of your trauma from your lived experiences,
cut that oven on.
I'm calling that trauma, which is why I highlighted Tracy Ellis Ross's ability to get any man in the world, and there's 7 billion men in the world.
Yeah.
1. 2, I think the mere existence of her contradicts her point. Because her point is, I'm this age. The men that I'm meeting in my age bracket are leftovers. I'm running into the worst of the worst.
Your words, not hers.
I think that's
That's definitely what she was hinting at. That's why she deals with younger dudes, because she pretty much feel like the older men are full of shit. They want to be controlling and all those different things. I think Joe Punton was completely accurate. We might have to go watch Tracy Ellis speak on their own. But once again, this goes back to the liberal super Negro conversation that I'm talking about, where males is just so easily fits in a box, because when you flipped it on this male atmosphere, if a male said these same things with a lot of the conversation, she's always on the other side of calling a male a groomer, a male a predator, or a male toxic or traumatized or anything like that. But when it's the woman side of things, she's never can understand that same perspective and same footing. And then to vice versa, how I say it's so easy to fit in a box. I talk about how Obama, they love to push that LGBTQ. They also love to push the new feminism movement and all this other shit. Right? Look who she's fucking talking to. like, brother, I gotta start putting these women on the list. You got Jada Pinkett, like, as clear agents to feminism. I didn't really put Michelle Obama in it because it just wasn't, like, I don't think about her much, but I might got to put her in that bag. I might got to keep an eye on Michelle.
I ain't get that.
Oh, that's what I'm getting from what. All right, so maybe I'm off this.
I can tell you what I got from what she's saying is
Tracy Ellis Ross seemed to be one. What's that lady that was dating Vivica Fox? She seemed to be one with her shows. That whole table. That whole purple table show that come on in the morning with the View, whatever, I think that's what it's called. They feminism agents. Like, it's a lot of agents out here you gotta be careful for.
The dating pool and niggas my age, it ain't it. I ain't
even going.
Male is definitely one.
Well, go ahead.
The shit she's been around and she's into, men her age ain't into.
And when she try to get into it with him, it's no, and that's where that toxic masculinity part comes in. Cause
And just to hurry up and rebuttal what he's saying, that's still based out of individual experience, and you basing it on all guys that's her age. She dated a couple dudes her age, and she felt like, you know what, I'm tired of doing the work. Like, nah, bro, you. If we being honest, if you keep doing the work, you're going to come across that person that could be that person for you, unless there's something internally wrong with you. That's just the truth. There's too many people out here of all different ilks, of all different creeds and creativity with God in them, or different spiritual beliefs in them that help these people be who they are. So it's just too many different, like I said, ilks of people out here, whether it's rich, middle class, whatever, bro. There's so many people out here to find love with. And for you to get on the high horse and talk about all men my age ain't shit, look in the mirror.
everybody say, when you're speaking about fluidity. And
you ain't might be shit.
The younger niggas is with that today. So she's like, I like this because I get to do more to
I think that's a crock of shit. That men are not a monolith.
I'm not saying a monolith, but a
that's
lot
the
of
part
older,
I thought Mel ain't.
Men are not a monolith.
They're not.
So don't tell me that there's not a man in your age range.
We playing percentages.
Into some of the things.
We playing percentages. So the nigga she shot at her age range, her percentage at getting off what she might want to get off ain't high.
I'm not mad
But
at
when
that.
you play with the younger ones, I could get it off
I'm not
and
mad at
because
it.
of who I am.
But it does,
they gonna let me do what the fuck I want to do
But
to
it
them.
does come off like I'm here for a good time, not a long
Okay,
time.
so hold on 1 second here. Y'all are on the same wavelength with.
I'm agreeing with
which she might be. She might be an undercover freak. Okay, let's put
agreeing
that
with
to the
that.
side. You were gonna say something.
I was gonna say that
She brought up the men in my age range are X, which is a huge generalism about men her age.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm her age.
Okay.
She 52, I'm 49 years old.
Yeah.
So you can't judge all men
But you're
that
taken. She does. She's not. She's
please-
not referring to the
please,
men.
Mel, let me finish
okay,
my
go
sentence.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yo, you can't take all of these men that are in that age range and say that they are all suffering from toxic masculinity. Had a man been on that interview and stated those same exact things about women in his age group, you would have found that offensive. Right? So you don't find it offensive because she brought up her past traumas that Joe said about controlling men or men that were X, all of these negative things that she lived in her past life experiences. If a man was saying that those things and he justified all older women as being X, y'all would say, nah, he just able, he rich, he can control these young bitches because they weak of mind.
See, that's the point I was trying to make. Maybe I articulated myself wrong. What I get from her is this piss in the dating pool of men her age. And to say that,
bro, this shit got me going back to the gender conversation. Like, bro, there is plants that's male and female that has they whole role in production. Like, it just, when you go back to it, it's like, I'm really trying to understand where do they think gender roles come from, bro? Because it made me think about the spiritual natures of, like, when you look up femininity, what femininity is tied to, when you look at it's tied to like the moon, or what the principles that those things may display, or what they represent, or how they benefit, or what's the pros, what's the cons, what's the things that they go through, what's the things that they're good at. Like, all those different things, or you could look that up of what's spiritual principles of femininity. Then you go look up what spiritual principles of masculinity, and you go see how that's tied to the sun, and how that's tied to growth, or how that's tied to feeling certain things. Like, it's or understandings. It, like, so when you talk about this masculine and feminine thing, bro, it's so intertwined into everything that we see, from our moon and our sun to the tides to the air. I think either the air is, I think feminine, I think fire might be masculine. I forget. Like, it's so many different components where there's certain you can. I think it's even, you go into the elements, where elements and shit could be either naturally masculine or feminine properties and shit. Like, bro, it gets so deep. But that just, like, it just made me just think, like, when we even getting into this conversation, it was like understanding how men and women think. I'm like, women usually be more thoughtful, or not necessarily thoughtful. They be more into the artistic things, and they're more curve minded, and then men are more linear and point to point minded and shit like that. like A to B minded versus like women, they take more turns and things like that. That's why they like certain dramas and things like that. And men like, or just, I'm just giving it a blanket definition or a description, or more like might fuck with the news and stock markets and shit like that. That's more about analytical things and things like that. So that's where where genders come from, bro. The natural just way of life of being connected to a certain thing, and the fact that we all have masculine and feminine in us, and that certain balance help us be what we are. But when you're out of balance, you can see how certain men tap into their feminine natures way more than they should be. And if they was to put that back in check through whatever therapy or understandings, they could tap back into that masculine nature and be more balanced the way that they're supposed to be. And it's vice versa. You probably could argue a lady like who are we talking about? Excuse me.
To say,
what are we talking about? Who is this lady right here? I forgot her so fast. Tracy Ellis Ross. She might be stuck in a little bit of her masculine principles a little bit more. Just saying. And not necessarily even to a point where she's lesbian, but she's a little too dominant, or a little too domineering, or whatever you want to call it. Then you get to a point where they might be lesbian, don't even like men. And I think that's a possibility of being happening because we both have masculine and feminine in us. But in reality, there's a balance that you're supposed to have that help you be more thorough and just being able to have analytical in you and being able to have that artsy understandings in you. And that certain balance that you have is what makes you special as a man. That certain balance of women being more artsy, but they still be able to be analytical, like that helps them in so many ways, and that's what makes them special as women. But hey man, like I said, this shit go all the way down to plants and how plants and shit do the same thing. The masculine plants try to spread their seeds, and the feminine plants receive them.
In her own right, and having an enormous amount of success from girlfriends and then Blackish. Like, her lived experience is extremely unique. And so it's really difficult to apply everyday kind of standards and thoughts to what she's experienced.
Man, you know.
Okay, hold up for a second.
I agree with that.
That was awesome, first of all.
Thank you.
Controlling men or men that were X, all of these negative things that she lived in her past life experience. She brought up the men in my age range are X, which is a huge generalism about men her age.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm her age.
Okay.
She 52, I'm 49 years old.
Yeah.
So you can't judge all men
But you're
that
taken. She's not referring to the men.
Please, Mel, let me finish my sentence.
Go ahead.
Yo, you can't take all of these men that are in that age range and say that they are all suffering from toxic masculinity. Had a man been on that interview and stated those same exact things about women in his age group, you would have found that offensive, right? So you don't find it offensive because she brought up her past traumas that Joe said about controlling men or men that were X, all of these negative things that she lived in.
I don't know. I'm just looking at body language. I seem incredibly upset that he got cut off. His whole last 40 seconds after he got cut off was just interesting. Watch after Mel say, "Okay, we get what you guys are saying," which I didn't think it was a bad way to move on, because it's like, okay, let's expound on that. I don't know if she did a good job of expounding on what they saying, because it's like, okay, y'all both agree on that, but it seemed like Ice took that away. Maybe I'm crazy.
She's not referring to the men.
Mel, let me finish
okay,
my
go
sentence.
ahead.
Hold on, let me go back a little bit. Maybe I'm crazy.
I'm agreeing with
which she might be. She
Nah.
might be an undercover freak. Okay.
Watch how he moved the mic.
You were gonna say something.
Get his water.
I was going to say that
Nah, he might just never
she
mind.
brought up the
I
men
don't
in
know.
my age range are X, which is a huge generalism about men her age.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm her age.
Okay.
She 52, I'm 49 years old.
Yeah.
So you can't judge all men
But you're
that
taken. She's not referring to the
please,
men.
Mel, let me finish
okay,
my
go
sentence.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yo, you can't take all of these men that are in.
She cut him off I don't know if that was just more frustration or something wrong with him. He had wiped his eye. Now he wiping his head. He moved his head back. Got some water. You know when they say you sipping tea and shit like that, what that like the little sub body language of what that means.
That age range and say that
He wipes his eyes again.
From toxic masculinity. Had a man been on that interview and stated those same exact things about women in his
Wait, who knows? I just something I noticed.
age group, you would have found that offensive. Right? So you don't find it offensive because she brought up her past traumas that Joe said about controlling men or men that were ex, all of these negative things that she lived in her past life experiences. If a man was saying that those things and he justified all older women as being ex, y'all would say, nah, he just able, he rich, he can control these young bitches because they weak of mind.
See, that's the point I was trying to make. Maybe I articulated myself wrong. What I get from her is there's piss in the dating pool of men her age. And to say that, like putting it in reverse, like a man can't say that because there is a Tracy Ellis Ross out there that is single, successful, and in search of something. Why does she think the same can't be said for her? You can meet somebody.
I think. I'm sorry.
So you can throw a rock.
And I think that's just that what they're really not getting at, because I guess they're trying to respect Tracy Ellis, is it speaks to a certain victim mindset that she's rather play into. It's easier for her to say that there's nobody out there for me than it is to go out there and do the work. And how that comes off. It comes off as defeated. It comes off as victim mentality. Honestly. And it comes off as weak. But you can't say that because it's mean.
In search of something. Why does
and you don't like black women.
You think the same can't be said for her? You can meet somebody.
I think. I'm sorry.
So you can throw a rock and hit a podcast of men talking about how used and washed up women over a certain age is. That is a
don't
fact.
Start talking about these incel.
I'm not talking about that. He made a point about if it was in reverse and it was a man saying this sort of thing, in reverse, that we'd be totally offended. Yes, it is offensive, but I can't not hear that because it is so prevalent.
Please address the point.
I'm addressing something that you said. So
I didn't say nothing about no other podcast. I'm talking.
No,
about
you made it seem like it was just like her what she thought is. You made it seem like if a man said what she said is not like the common shit right now. I can't, I'm trying to say how prevalent that idea is.
Has nothing
to do
with
but the men that, wait, hold up, because I like that. The men that say that, like I just called them, there's a community, there's names for them. Incels, Red Pill. We talking about Tracy Ellis Ross.
Okay.
See, even that highlights the difference.
Okay, so hold on one second here. Now going back to Tracy Ellis Ross. You cannot be in all places at the same time, and as it relates to dating, okay? So, for example, I'm single.
Excuse after excuse after excuse, instead of just looking in the mirror, whether it's, like I said, some personal stuff that you haven't corrected, where you're not able to be in long-term relationships because you have certain flaws that are just not productive for long-term relationships, or you just not really doing the real work as far as being careless with your dating habits or something like that. But for a lady as successful as her, it's all excuses. It's all excuses. She's not ugly. It's plenty of men out there. Everything that you could possibly say is just victim mentality and excuses.
Do you know how much advice?
Now, if she was 350, if she was big as shit, something like that, then you'd be like, okay, I can see why it's hard for you to find some guy. But same thing is like, well, maybe your personality is the equivalency of a person that weighs 350 is unattractive. And that's why you have such a hard time actually in the dating world. So once again, it's more look in the mirror than try to blame everybody else. Because in any other circumstance, when the person says, when you can go put yourself in a bunch of different experiences and it's always the problem end up being everybody else, when are you going to look at yourself and saying, maybe I'm the problem? Or maybe it's something about me that don't fit into these environments. And that's how I felt about jobs. It's like, I could keep blaming all these jobs as the problem, or I could look at myself and saying, I don't fit in that type of environment. I need to create something better for myself. And That's really looking in the mirror. Or I could have just kept trying to find jobs and just kept chasing jobs and never really ever felt the peace that I was going to ever be able to have, because jobs don't give me that feeling that I want. It don't give me that freedom that I want. So I was going to always be at odds with jobs. And I think that's something you have to internally look at with yourself instead of trying to blame everybody else. And that's just good sound advice if you ever want to be productive at anything you want to do. Look at yourself as the problem. Look at yourself and see what you could have done better. Obviously, there's things that go on wrong in the world and things you can't control. So why focus on that anyways? Because shit gonna always go on in life and it's gonna always be shit you can't control. But what could you do to yourself that could help you get through these situations? Could you be more prepared? Could you be more abundant? Could you be whatever in a sense to where these things don't become more of a hindrance when they do happen as things that you can't control? So it's things that you can always look at personally and internally to address yourself. But pointing the finger, it's just, like I said, is a childish mentality to have. And for a grown woman that's supposed to be for the a woman's woman, or here to give advice for women, this is horrible advice. And helping placate to these excuses that these older women to give to younger women, acting like, oh, they act like young women. I don't have any answers. It's always everybody else. I could see if a 19-year-old girl was saying that, or a 21-year-old girl was saying that. It's like, girl, you got a long life to live. You're gonna end up running into a guy that's gonna be on your wavelength, right? But these women 50 acting like young girls and giving excuses that young girls will give to other young girls. If this is what 3 different 50-year-old women plus are coming to conclusion wise, that just speaks to a level of immaturity as far as understanding or accountability. Like, that's just reality, bro. And it's honestly sad because like I said, if we were talking about men, we'll be saying, bro, it's excuses. Just like Kevin Samuels used to say. Like, he said it to men. What are your personal circumstances to why or what you need to change? Because once you change those, you will be able to attract women. Are you too big? Are you too quirky? Like, how do you dress? How do you present yourself? Do you look like a bum? So all those different things would be looked at as excuses if a dude was to be like, there's no women out there for me. Like I said, it's clear immaturity.
Unsolicited advice people give me about dating. A ton. I'm just going to tell you.
Let's go back to what Mel was. Just let her start her point.
Going back to Tracy Ellis Ross. You cannot be in all places at the same time as it relates to dating, okay? So, for example, I'm single. Do you know how much advice, unsolicited advice people give me about dating? A ton. I'm just gonna tell you, a lot. You know what you should do? You know where you should go? You know what I was thinking? No, I don't. I didn't ask, but you're gonna fucking tell me anyways. This is what happens to women.
With all that advice and you still struggle, you think people are really giving that much shit advice? Like, if you think you get all this advice, just listen to what I said, back to what I said earlier, when you look at everything given to you and say they're always the problem versus it's you. You got all this advice that you said you get by the fuck ton, and you trying to tell me all the advice that you got that you've been given has been shit, not worth listening to. Or is it just you? Let's just be real. What are the odds that every person you come across, like she said, you know how often it is? Use her own talking points against it. She said it happens often. So you get advice that often to a point you ain't never had no success. That might speak to you. Because most people in general, if you was getting advice on anything, you'll be able to compare and contrast the advice of what sounds reasonable and use your own discernment to be like, all right, I might can make something work out of this. That's just reasonable, right? Especially like, or am I crazy?
About dating. A ton. I'm just gonna tell you, a lot. You know what you should do? You know where you should go? You know what I was thinking? No, I don't. I didn't ask, but you're gonna fucking tell me anyways. This is what happens.
Maybe that attitude in itself speaks to your results. Uncoachable. unpersuadable. Maybe that stems to why your results are so bad. And why even those kind of don't want to listen to character things could be a mirror or a reflection of how you act in relationships when things are not going your way. And how that happens often in relationships where you really do need to hear your partner out, but how you're willing to shut down or some shit like that so quickly. When there's people really just being honest with you. But how you so defensive, no, I don't want to hear it. Maybe that's just a reflection. Maybe I'm just reaching.
I didn't ask, but you're gonna fucking tell me anyways. This is what happens to women frequently, is we get unsolicited advice as to where we're supposed to be. It would literally be a full-time fucking job trying to position ourselves to be available to wherever these men are, because you can't be in all places all at the same time.
Oh shit, I got a Charlie horse. But even what I feel is disingenuous with that, if you're just a working girl, you're gonna come across men. You're going to come across men. That's why I said this in general. Men and women shouldn't work together because of how hard it is for people to stay professional. In environments where it's co-ed relationships and working and stuff like that. So when it comes to just being a woman that's out of the house and working, traveling, depending on your certain job or jobs you have had over the years, you're going to come across many people that's peers to you. And that's how most people have relationships, whether it's a friend of a friend at a job or they go out to drink and they run into some, like they run into other people that do similar shit that they're like, it's just like, that's how life happens. Where when you're constantly out, you're going to get so many random engagements that if you're in just environments that are just normal environments, if you're at the bar of bars that are in your price range and things like that, you're going to run into people. If you're going to events and things at your job and conventions and conventions and things like that, you're going to run into all type of like-minded people or people that's in your ilk and range. For instance, in Mel's example, being in the industry, I'm sure she's ran into the rappers, the friends of rappers, the producers, industry execs, DJs, all type of guys that were somewhere just moderately successful or just as successful as her that tried to give her a shot. And that's how it naturally happens. What happened with those situations, who knows? I don't know. But you have to start to look at yourself in the mirror when you can't maintain long-term relationships, whether you don't want them and that's just something you come up with internally. But her conversational rebuttal is disingenuous when she talks about, I can't be in places at all time. You don't need to be at all places at all time. You really just need to be out working. And that in itself is going to increase your chance of running into people, especially if you're an attractive person. I'm sure most rooms that Mel go in, she's one of the most attractive women in those rooms. You telling me she ain't been in a lot of rooms? That'll be the only thing that you could tell me why she wouldn't be running into people that's of her ilk or higher. Mel has been in all type of rooms where there was men of her ilk or better. Let's just be real. So that conversational piece, I can't be anywhere at all times. She's been in more rooms than an average regular day woman and been next to niggas and rubbed shoulders with people that an average woman would have never rubbed shoulders with, or maybe at a 10% level that an average woman might run into a dude at a club or something that got money or something like that. Mel, you know how many athletes, you know how many rappers, like I said, I've went down a list of people that would gave Mel a shot, and you telling me none of those guys had character enough? None of them guys had the ability to date long term or have that ability to, like I said, be a husband to you? That's just not factual. You can want us to believe that. You can act like it's so hard to find people because it, like, you got to go to all these Mount Everest ass places to meet a man. Like, that's what you can try to make it seem like an extreme, but it's an excuse. I got to go to the dungeon to find a man. I can't be at the dungeons. Like, bro, what are we talking about? Like, bro, all you have to do is go out and work and go out to a bar every once in a while. And if you're the most attractive girl, you're going to run it. You could just go to church and go to different church events and how the other church commingle. You're going to run into people just naturally doing what you do if you're out. If you model, you're going to run into other models. Like, brother, what are we talking about? You're going to run into photographers. You're going to run into, like, all type of people. Just doing your job. Then let's not talk about you actually having a social life, like a person like Mel. Mel would be one of the most, if we talk about percentiles of people, she would be at the highest percentile of having a social life. Most people would not compare to her social life that she has to other people throughout the years that she's been around. Like, it's sad to bring up because it's like it seems like you're almost shitting on that person, but it's just like maybe you just don't want to be in a long-term relationship and you haven't realized that. And instead of blaming men and trying to shit on men, just look at yourself and be like, you know what? I don't really like long-term relationships. It's not really for me. That's the real thing to say.
Time and also fucking run your life, have a career. It gets difficult. Like it's not as simple as everybody wants to make it seem. Like she's Tracy.
It is. It's very simple. It's very simple. But to be a victim, you got to make things, your problem seem so grandiose when everybody goes through them. That's the thing. When you really get out and talk to other people and understand people, you know that everybody goes through these things. And the fact that you're trying to make it seem like a problem and you're not a woman that's 250 or a woman that's completely a secluse or a man that's completely a secluse, you shouldn't have any problems. And if you do, you really need to start looking at yourself because those are the only exceptions. If you're extremely big, or let's be real, your personality is extremely obsessive, whatever, annoying, or whatever you want to call the word. You don't get out the house at all. Or you're horrible at social skills. But even then, I would argue the people that are horrible at social skills just haven't got out enough in their own form of what they like. Because there's so many different rooms and conventions for niggas that like art or dweeby shit. And I just hate to say dweeby, but NerdCon or whatever the shit called. Comic-Con and shit like that. There's so many different lanes and shit like that to find those people now. Well, you could go look and like it's different like stores that have gaming conventions and shit that where you can just come in and play games. There'll be women like that and men that's your type. All the anime people, bro. You just ain't went to enough anime conventions, bro. Even if you are not that much of a social person, you're going to run into people that got the same social level status as you or social, not status, but social awareness or social and like however, I forget the word I was just using. But how they're able to interact in society and their skills and their societal skills. They're going to have the same level of societal skills as you, most likely. They're going to have their same little quirks and shit that's very similar as you. Because y'all y'all was raised in those same type of cultures almost. So even with that, I think for a person that's a secluse, once they get out the house, all you have to do is gotta go look for the space that you gravitate to, and you'll have a good chance of finding some people of your like-minded. So there's even an answer, like the secluses making excuses for themselves as well. The big people, they actually got to do real work because you could find some temporary success as far as relationship and sexually, but long-term stuff, who knows? I'm sure you could find another big person or a person that likes you. Just our personality-wise, you got to do a lot harder work, I feel like, than an average person. So I wouldn't call it an excuse if they said they was having a hard time trying to find long-term love. I do think a big person got to do a little harder work and really finding somebody that's going to fuck with them. And I see them, they be high success rates. I see a lot of big people with big people or big people with little people all the time. So even then, it ain't that hard. They get the job done. And yeah, so I would feel more empathy for a bigger person, but this whole I'm so rich and my life is so hard, crybaby shit, hell nah.
Ellis Ross, so she should have like pick of the litter. That's not necessarily true.
Oh, you moving the goalpost?
I'm not moving the goalpost. I'm not moving the goalpost. I'm referencing the things that she was saying. When she talks about You know, she goes on to talk about, you know, the fact that she's child free and never got married and that sort of thing. I think that even just kind of putting herself out there to even have that conversation was just a level, and you guys are gonna fucking
So brave.
I do think that it's brave because she.
No, it's victim mindset, and you spreading the cancer to other young women and other young people to be victims just like you and be defeated instead of overcoming the challenges that everyone has, bro. Everyone has their insecurities. Everyone has their problems that they have to get over to be able to be attractive to the opposite sex, bro. Like, that's just here's what it is, bro. No one want to hear your sob stories. And saying you come out in the public, bro, it's just that real artsy, bro, when a lot of people say, I don't want to hear what actors and actresses have to say, bro. I don't care what the theater arts people have to say, bro, because they always these artsy, fartsy, liberal arts, ultra deep but meaningless ass people. Like, that's just the truth. That's just the truth, and it's been that way for a long time. That's why it's like we get it. Y'all can act real deep emotions, but when it actually comes to deep thought, bro, y'all be a bucket of nothing. And like, that's what this is to me. For Mel LaCall, Tracy Ellis Ross brave because she wanted to go spill her heart out. I'm like, no, it's her going to be a victim and make a bunch of excuses for her lifestyle instead of just being upfront with what the decisions she made in life. You have to be accountable for you being single this whole time. You wanted to be single, but you're conflicted. So you don't want to be honest with that. But in reality, you chose to be single throughout your life and all the decisions you made. And you never really took the effort to get back into the field. And that's reality, bro. Because if you really wanted to do it, it would have happened. That's just reality, bro. You're so successful at acting. You're so successful at all these other things. But for some reason, you can't be successful in relationships. That's because it's something you're just choosing not to do. That's reality, man. That's reality. It's not brave. It's victimhood mentality. And just not being accountable. It's okay to not want to be a person that wants to be married to or marry your whole life. Everybody's not like that. But some women do get conflicted at their middle age, and they call that midlife crisis. It happens with men too. Where we have these conflicted thoughts of, I'm in the middle of my life and maybe I could have did things differently. We all go through it. But either you're going to move past it or you're going to dwell on your past decisions and just never fix anything. But thought it was an interesting conversation, but it's more of the same when it comes to male and effeminate conversations. If you really wanted to help women, you'll just be honest. You wouldn't be placating to that victim mentality, to be honest. Let's move on. Get into some UMG convo.
They scared. They scared. You got them on the rope straight. They scared. Like, why you threatening him, UMG? Not you threatening him. Now I know because of this threat.
Let's see. Let's actually read what it says because she didn't read it out. UMG warns Drake to be careful what you wish for. A new statement over their ongoing legal battle. Drake, unquestionably one of the world's most accomplished artists with whom we've enjoyed 16 successful years a relationship. 16 successful relationship. 16 years successful relationship is being misled by legal representative. I'm sorry, I'm fucking up. Let's start over. Most accomplished artists with whom we've enjoyed a 16-year successful relationship is being misled by legal representatives into taking one absurd legal step after another. In Texas last November, his counsel instituted a legal proceeding with much fanfare and bluster. On Monday, they quietly dropped their case. So that's what do they mean on Monday, quietly dropped their case? Okay, I guess. I don't know what that means. 2 weeks ago, his representatives celebrated a win, granting a routine discovery motion. That win will become a loss. It is if this frivolous and reckless lawsuit is not dropped and is entirely entire. I can't get it out. Is in its entirety because Drake's whatever personally be subjected to discovery. Whatever. I can't finish the sentences because they're head, but yeah, I mean, it just seems like legal hoopla. Because, like, what are you talking to the public for? That in itself is like, what are we making public declarations for as an institution? Like, none of this affects your label and people actually listening to your artists. So it's like, what are you making a public statement about, for real, for real? Like, no one's really protesting UMG's label or artists, like, no one's protesting Spotify or Apple Music or anything. So I don't get the reason to want to try to sway the public unless you just into some different tactics. Because at the end of the day, it's like your main focus should be in court. So it's something else going on. It is fishy.
Anything bad that comes out about Drake in the next 6 months, year, whatever, anything bad that comes out about that man, I'm immediately not believing it because of this. You just threaten him? Anything I hear about Drake is going to be lies. Lies, lies, lies. It's all lies. It's lies.
Lies, lies, and more lies.
We're not believing any of it because you just threatened this man. There's no telling what you're going to pull out of your ass at this point to save yourself, UMG. But I'm going to compare what UMG just did to something that we all might be able to understand and relate to. You know what this is like? This is like when your baby daddy or your boyfriend, whoever, when you suspect he's been cheating on you, you look at him and you say, let me see your phone.
I don't know how we moving on.
Fair comment here by. It's a ridiculous comment, Jason. It's ridiculous on multiple levels, not just because of Chris Bosh.
Oh, we already talked about this.
Know it's a direct shot at Chris Bosh. Just to extrapolate on what you were talking about, Chris Bosh.
Well, I guess it is something I add to it.
His first 2 seasons in the NBA. Every year after that, until he retired due to health issues at 31, he had blood clot issues. He was an all-star every year. That's 11 straight years as an all-star in the NBA. Yes, he finished second-team All-NBA with Toronto. The year just prior to him joining forces with Dwayne Wade and LeBron in Miami. How's 24 points per game and 11 rebounds per game grab you, Jason? That's pretty damn good. And in fact, let me tell you, it was 4th league-wide in player efficiency rating that year. The first 3 in player efficiency that year was LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Kevin Durant, and then Chris Bosh. So what you're telling me is you took 3 of the top 4 rated players in the NBA and thrust them on one team? That's a big 3, Rich Paul. And let me tell you why else it's a garbage comment by Rich Paul, who, of course, shout out to you, Rich, the king bootlicker that you are. This guy
That's crazy.
Was discovered by LeBron James when he.
That's good enough. I just wanted to talk about that statement about how good Chris Bosh was. Essentially, Chris Bosh was good enough to lead his team that was, woefully underdeveloped as far as other teammates he had. Was still able to take him to a playoff run, and I feel like if he was able to stay on a team and be the main guy, he would have took a couple different teams on playoff runs by himself in his prime without ever, going to the big 3 if we were saying another type of series of events had happened. So with that being said, he was arguably a top 10, top 5 player when he went there, which is a bus driver type guy of a team you would expect in most circumstances, I would say. Then you had D Wade, which was a top 5 guy for sure, and then LeBron. 3 guys that could lead any given team to a playoff run or to the playoffs is, I think, the perfect example of a big 3. Versus, like, even the Tim Duncan thing, Tim Duncan was clear he could carry a team or help get a team to playoffs, a deep playoff run. Tony Parker by himself or the main guy, would he be able to do that? I don't know. Ginobili, could he be the main guy? I don't know. Then you go to the Warriors' big 3. Could Clay take a team to the playoffs by himself as the main guy, and other guys are just filling in for him, like as far as the roles? It's interesting. But, I mean, him being one of the best shooters of all time is suffice to saying he's in a big three. But just saying, I think just looking back, it's hard to say that Heat team wasn't a big three. They had 3 clear bus drivers. Even, like I said, the Celtics, at the time that they went there, could Ray Allen take a team to a deep playoff run by itself? Probably not. KG, he could probably take a team to the playoffs, maybe a playoff run by himself, but it would have been probably hard, like saying he was just a bus driver and everybody else was just role players around him to most degrees. And then Paul Pierce, yeah, he would have made it, maybe took a team to the playoffs, but it just depends. It just depends. So even with them big three, it's like that Miami Heat team, we being honest, it really was a really level of lack of competition. It was just a level of, I don't know what word I want to throw in there with it, but a disgusting level, or I really can't think. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it just was a lack of competition, essentially. But it was at a disgusting level. Like, the level of wanting to go play with other guys, and, like, that was disgusting when you really think about it, especially when you talk about where those guys was ranked in the league at the time versus some of the other teams that maybe was put together that was what you call big threes or something like that. It's like, yeah, but they were a little more balanced, feels like. And then the lack of success y'all end up having, then years, decades later, you're trying to act like it's not a big three. Yeah, it's all funny. It's all funny to see. All right, I'm probably about to wrap this up now, though. Go watch some games. I mean, look like Gordo getting to the bag, man, but producers gonna beef. It's a part of the game, man. They're clearly on different sides. Oh, man, this Shannon lawsuit is interesting. Seems like a lot of bullshit, but I'm going to say that for the podcast. That's a good topic. D-Friend, absolutely unsure. Yeah, I'm about to wrap this up, man. It was cool talking to people. Y'all make sure y'all subscribe. I'm trying to get this channel monetized. Yes, sir. I was just going back to the comments. Sandra Greenhouse, man. She came on a little strong. But I guess salute. The hate bring views as well. So it all goes to the algorithm, I guess. That's all I can say. But hey, yeah, we leaving out those Russ highlights, but we can't let them play too long, man. That's just a good way to do it. That was an accident, but